We're live and in charge. What do you think about the games this week?
Pretty interesting week. I mean, you know, especially when you talk about San Francisco being decimated with all the injuries, and even before the game and during the game, but they still ended up making it a little bit interesting at the end. Um, it was an overall good week in the NFL, though.
It was. It seems like I'm surprised at this point with as good a talent as you got in the AFC that we've arrived with the Steelers being undefeated. I mean, they're certainly a good team. They're certainly a team that deserves to be undefeated. They played against some tough foes to get there. But it is a little surprising for me to see them there. And I don't know. I'm still on the place of thinking I can trust them at the end of the day that one of these other teams will jump up, Kansas City or Baltimore. How about you?
Yeah, I mean the Steelers is definitely I think it's just their schedule. They haven't played any kind of marquee guys yet. So I mean, yeah, the Steelers are definitely shocking that they're undefeated. I thought Baltimore would beat them.
I'll tell you what, they've got an incredible pass rush. Like between those two Russians, but Tuitt in there too, and Hayward. I mean, they really do a good job of getting after the quarterback, man. I'm super impressed. And then Fitzpatrick back there gives them just enough as far as playmaking back there. They've got a couple corners too. T.Y. Hilton's not T.Y. Hilton, but the other Hilton cornerback they got. He's a good little player back there. They're going to be a threat in the playoffs. It's funny though, what everyone sort of says now is the narrative with them is that they're going to be in a position of Ben Roethlisberger holding them back, him being the reason why they can't properly.
As long as I told you, like the Steelers are similar to us. As long as Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, they're gonna do good things. What's going on, Maxwell? What's going on, Carl? Team 12s. You did tell us that they were going to trade for Dunlap. You did call that one. I gotta say, gotta give you your props on that one.
That's right. Give
Ahmad,
props out
what's
when we
going
see
on?
him. So
Jose, what's going on?
what's up, everybody? So we're joining here with a little bit of bonus material. I told you guys we'd get in here with me and Dmac a little bit and talk a little bit during the week when we can. It's going to be kind of unscheduled, so you guys will never know when it's coming. Just suddenly it'll just pop up in your feed. So you just got to be on your toes and have those notification bells hit. You know what I mean? It always helps. Ready. And double them up because you hit Dmac's channel, my channel, you're not going to miss it that way. So we're gonna get rolling through here a little bit on this. And Ahmad, I'll consider putting you on as a moderator. We've got a bunch of guys right now, but I'll maybe put you on there. I'm not opposed to it. And welcome Maxwell Carl, as he said, Team 12s. And we just want to get on here and talk a little bit about the matchup last week. I really want to push this forward to this week's matchup against the Bills. I think it's been kind of talked enough to death here this last week against the 49ers, Dmac.
Yeah.
Seattle blitzed the hell out of the 49ers, overwhelmed them. Garoppolo played on one leg. Seattle's offense continues to be elite, special, Russell Wilson MVP. And then the fourth quarter comes, they dial back the blitzes. The 49ers are able to now start moving the ball with the backup quarterback who has a little bit of a thing against Seattle. I don't know. He likes Seattle a little bit. You saw him in person, right? What's that kid's? I forget the kid's name. It's the backup 49ers quarterback who then sucks against everybody else. Yeah. And you were in the stadium, you said a couple years ago, watching him play. Mm-hmm. He just seems like he has a plan out there. He sticks to it and he goes, that backup quarterback. I don't want to play him anymore. He scares me so much more than even a healthy
man looking good.
No,
sure. I mean, but we handled business. We did what we had to do to get out of that game. And like I said, we handled business. We moved forward. Like I said, looking at Buffalo and like I said, Buffalo, traditionally, I don't know why people think their defense is so tough, but I mean, I think they've been getting kind of exploited this year. As far as their defense, they're not as good as people say they are or how they look on paper. So I think we'll have a very interesting game because Josh Allen's got that huge arm. So like I said, those guys are definitely going to push us vertically. And like I said, if we don't get that pressure that we put on those guys last week, it's going to be kind of tough. I think we need to definitely stay with that pass rush that we brought last week. And just keep that going. Hopefully we've got Jamal Adams ready to go. Hopefully we got, Snacks ready to go. And we'll see what we got. Hopefully Dunlap is even playing. I don't know.
Well, I know at this point we confirmed today from Coach Carroll, we're getting back Dunlap. He's a go. We're going to get Jamal Adams. He's a go. But we are not going to have Carson. We are not going to have Snacks quite yet. And if for folks that are wondering on Snacks, that's going to be a question that comes up here a bunch. I'm just going to preeminently go across for this. The reason you're not looking at Snacks is playing right now. Why it's taking so long. Go look at the photographs of Snacks Harrison right
He's
after
out
the
of shape.
Seattle Seahawks signed him. I mean, I know the defensive tackles and the one techs are fat boys. They're big boys. They take up a lot of space, but that was too much space he was taking up. He'd obviously been sitting on his couch doing a lot of nothing during COVID. So he needed some time to get himself rounded out, for lack of a better term, into shape. And I get what you're saying, Dmac. I've got a little more confidence, I think, because of the last few weeks. D-Boy, what's up? How's it going in there? Hawk Nation, hello, hello. Yes, Carlos Dunlap does sound very happy to be a Seattle Seahawk, and that's wonderful to hear. This is the kind of guy you want.
Anybody that leaves Cincinnati is going to be ecstatic.
Can you imagine 10 years of playing at near elite level to / elite level, year in and year out, you're displaying that kind of production while your team never does anything. And now you get this spark at the end of your career to truly go for a Super Bowl contending team, nay, even maybe a Super Bowl favorite Super Bowl team. He's got to be on cloud nine, and it's fantastic to see. Back to the Bills a little bit, and we'll get on the chat here in just a sec, folks. We want to talk a little bit about this Bills matchup. When you look at them, I agree with you. The initial indicators would be, well, they're writing off last season's magic with the defense, which was very good, elite. This year's defense started out a little bit elite, started out pretty good, and then has fallen off, even despite some of the level of competition falling off. Teams that they should be kind of beating up on, they're struggling up against, and they've had some bad losses on their record, so things are trending downwards for them. I do think Josh Allen is a problem. This is a guy that you just worried about with accuracy coming out of college. Had the deep arm, had the mobility, but he threw 50% coming out of Wyoming. You know, the NFL, 60% in the NFL doesn't really get it done. You need to be up into that upper level, 65 to 70% range. He finds himself right now at 67%. His touchdown to pass interception ratios really good. He still doesn't know how to slide. He plays the quarterback. These young quarterbacks, Dmac, they play the quarterback position with such recklessness. What are the coaches telling? Coaches probably just don't care, I guess. They're saying, hey, if they get injured, we'll bring in another guy. But this is your future quarterback guy you want there for the next 15 years. I don't want him up there running upright like Dickerson in his prime, right? Just standing up nice and high. And you see these cornerbacks coming in like torpedoes, dude. And he's just a big target to smack, you know?
He's a big boy. For a big boy, it's hard to kind of squat down and get into that slide.
That's true. That's true. They can't get down on that. They're just, it's like, this is as far as it goes. I got to move forward. So,
but to my point with Arizona, I told you the only like teams that's going to actually give us a good run for our money are the mobile quarterbacks, the guys that can extend plays, the guys that can escape the pocket and make something out of nothing. And like I said, Josh Allen is one of those guys. He might not seem like one of those guys, but he will, if there's nothing there, he will create space and he will pick up that first down. And a lot of routes that the Bills are going to throw at you are going to be deeper routes. They've got nothing but speed guys. They like the big plays. And then if they can't pick up the big plays, they improvise with Josh Allen on the scramble drill. So he is able to be mobile and be able to attack us in that way. As long as we can, keep him inside that pocket, I think we'll be good. He's not as quick or elusive as Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
So I'm not, we should be too worried. But I mean, I think we still can throw some blitzes at him. Sometimes, he's not polished when it comes to reading defenses. He's not polished at going through his progressions, and he started off really hot this year, and just in the recent weeks he hasn't been looking too good. He's probably trending downwards versus trending upwards right now. So I was surprised with him as how well it fit Stephon Diggs was there. Stephon to me is such a route runner and a guy that's not necessarily an off script guy that would flourish maybe a little more under Josh Allen. He's really, I'm going to come off this post route. I'll be open. I'll create separation. You need to put it there and on the line and on time. And Allen's really fit in really well with him. That was the thing that really separates from the start of the season that kind of blew me away about that team was how quickly he was integrated into that offense. But I agree with you. I think that the issues of him scrambling around, then that big arm to hit those big plays. Seattle's shown a propensity early this season. This is one of the things we liked about the Garoppolo matchup was Garoppolo wasn't going to challenge you outside the numbers. He's going to keep everything inside those hash marks. And so the big plays that you've been giving up over the top now aren't as much of a problem because the guy's not even going to challenge you in that respect. This guy has the arm to challenge you in that respect. So that's where my fears do come in. And let me get just a little of the chat here. We'll bounce back into this because I know we got a couple of folks. I think it worked right here. Thank you, Ted Brogan, for the $5 donation. He says, great to see you two jokers. I've been focused on the
He calls it the erection, but I'm guessing he meant election. Maybe it's a Freudian slip there. But he said,
I like the choice of words.
Either one.
Either one works.
It works. It's ambiguous, but it works. I've been so focused on the election that I forgot about the Seahawks. Well, that's what we're here for, man, to always keep you reminded. M. Webb says, who are you more excited to watch play this weekend, Dunlap or Jamal? Jamal for me.
I'm more excited to see Dunlap, to see what he's got left in the tank. I know what Jamal's gonna bring to the table.
Yeah, I guess there is a part of me here that's super excited about this guy that's gonna, like I've just talked about, setting the stage here. He's played for this horrible team. Max effort guy has gotten it done in his production in all camps. Great run stuffer, great in getting to the quarterback. Not necessarily the best of the best in the league, but just elite. And now you go to a team where you now have something to play for. And in football, when you don't have something to play for, it's the same thing if you're in a football game and you're down 42-7 and it's the late in the third quarter and you're on defense. Yeah, or you're on offense, either one. There's a little bit of natural tendency in the body to give up and just kind of relax a little bit and go, I'll try out here, but I ain't going to give. But when you now have that extra, like, I'm going for the Super Bowl. This is the Lombardi. This is my chance for my whole career now to get turned around in this one area and put a cap on it like nothing else. You might have a guy out there playing with his hair on fire, possessed.
Yeah, I like it. He's going to change the scenery, and then also playing with a new kind of like energy with the new locker room. You got a leader in Russell Wilson that's a true leader that's going to motivate. And so I think, this is the perfect time for him to come in and just establish himself and show Seattle what he's got left and prove himself. And I think a lot of times you see these players that switch, teams, and they're rejuvenated by it. They have like kind of a chip on their shoulder because they have something to prove and they want to, show what they've got. And so I hope he comes with that energy. And obviously, like, the fact that Jamal Adams will be back when Dunlap plays is also key to me, because I always said, like, Jamal Adams, he's the catalyst to all the energy and all the big guys just stepping up one to make big plays. So he's the catalyst to all that. And so them playing at the same time, to me, is the best thing that can ever happen, even for Dunlap, because they feed off each other. So I like it.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. I love both of these guys coming back. Should just be a nice injection for that defensive squad that started to play a little bit better last week. And they've also started to, not only are they blitzing as much as any team in the league, they're now starting to angle in to be the top blitzing team in the entire NFL. And while this was a little bit concerning to us for a little while as we went through the season, they've now also kind of set things up for bringing back a player in the league who's one of the best blitzers in the entire league and can come from any direction. And now you've integrated into your squad more of a blitzing type scheme. You've gotten those guys more used to it because you're doing it so often, i.e. you're also going to start to do it better, was one of my things I've knocked them for, which when they've gone and tried to blitz in the past, it's not in their DNA. It's not in the skill set of the players, but you're bringing this along a little bit now. Maybe that's what they're looking for and forward thinking here as we move into the playoffs, of just fully embracing the blitz scheme, being okay with the big play you give up from time to time, but just becoming this attacking defense. It would be amazing to see both of these two transitions take place on this team. The offense letting Russ cook, and the defense now no longer is worried completely to every inch of their life of the big play occurring, now being willing to give up the big play because they're just trying to make something happen.
Right.
And I'd love both angles and directions to go both ways, to be honest with you. I would embrace them both. I know they come with downsides on both edge.
And Maxwell saying, is Jamal going to be limited snaps, or is he going to be 100%?
100%. 100%.
I think so.
Yep. This is why you took the extra time to not bring him back or rush him. This is why you didn't bring him back for the Cardinals. You didn't bring him back for the 49ers, because you're preparing him for when you want to have the stretch run at the end of this year, back in 9 games. M-Web Facts, Snacks was looking chunky as hell. Everyone needs to calm down. Our defensive tackles are not the problem. 100% agree. And that's been one of the things they've mentioned. And this is, why isn't he playing? Snacks has mentioned on Twitter, well, hey guys, calm down. There's some dogs up in front of me that are playing it right. And right now, you guys got to remember, we're rocking basically 3 1-techs already. Jaron Reed can play some 3-tech, but he's got a lot of 1-tech in his blood. Brian Monet's a 1-tech. And then the other kid who's named Opuna Ford is a pure 1-tech. He's not a 3-tech at all. He's not a guy who's going to knife into the backfield. So you've got those 3 guys. And then the other kid that they got over from the Bullard kid, he's a 3-tech. He's a 3-tech. So it's just who gets knocked off out of that group. That's been some of the little bit of triangulation they're doing. And I think a part of signing Snacks and bringing these guys in, they're trying to build up for what happened last year, where injuries decimated your roster and you didn't have the backups. Now they've got the backups at these positions where if things get really lean as we go along, they can still supplement and move along.
Right. So we've got Team 12. He says if John Brown is not a factor for the Bills, then their offense is not that good because he opens up the offense with the people.
I'd agree that he's still got legit speed. I don't think he's a game breaker, but he's the guy who, if we're talking about those off script plays with Allen, right, Dmac, he's the guy that's going to be the guy recipient of that down the field 50 yards because he's broken off his little in route and went, oh, I'll just go deep, and Allen will get it to me. That's the scary thing for me, you know. As somebody mentioned, Nathaniel above that mentioned keys of the game. I'm going to mention one, you mentioned one. We'll kind of go back and forth. So I think to that point, back ending off of what Team 12 is saying, stopping that deep ball with the John Brown or Stephon Diggs and off script plays, keeping everything in front of you, making them patient. Make Josh Allen patient would be one of my keys as far as defensively goes. How about you?
So defensively, I think the key is, like I said, to keep Josh Allen in the pocket because he's going to make mistakes. He's going to make bad reads. He's going to throw bad balls. Keep him contained. Don't let him get outside the pocket. And also, just like I said, don't get beat deep. And I think we win defensively. What do you think offensively?
Offensively, I was looking at the statistics on this, and Buffalo is not a particularly good defense. They're not awful. They're probably the bottom 15 in the league, into that, 17,
well, they just
range.
Don't take the ball away.
That's true. And that fits into well with what we do because we've been very good this year, aside from Russell having that one game against the Cardinals where he just decided to throw it up all over the place. They're very good about protecting the ball. The worry I have is this, Dmac. You're without Chris Carson in this game. He's been ruled out. You're without Carlos Hyde in this game.
Is he day-to-day?
No, Carson's out.
He's out? Okay.
Yeah, Carroll just did the press conference.
Who do we have healthy? Do we have Homer? Do we have DJ Dallas? What's going on?
Homer is back technically. I think he's going to be still in a limited state. You still have DJ Dallas. They signed back Alex Collins. I don't know if you remember him from a couple years ago. There's actually a college highlight video you can find of him. Somebody saying he was going to be a baby beast mode. And the comparisons were.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. Where he's a fun guy. Doesn't have any kind of long speed at all. Everything's short burst with him. So it's like he gets it done because he got great vision and great short burst. So he's able to utilize those things to get himself yards. We'll see what we can get out of him. They'll be familiar with the scheme. It's an okay. They needed another body. This is again when I say it's time to call Marshawn Lynch. But Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson are going to be out. This is the problem for me in this game. Buffalo defends against the pass pretty well. Top 10, I think, in the league right now. And I know they don't get a lot of interceptions, but they're good at, Tre'Davious White's back there. Micah Hyde's back. They got a pretty solid secondary. They give up yards in the run game. That's where you can get to them. That's where they're susceptible. And last week we saw, DJ Dallas didn't have anything there to get you the extra yards. Does Alex Collins at this point coming off the couch, not had been played in like 2 years? I don't know. I'm a little bit worried here. We're going to try to rely back on the pass going into their strength. And maybe that limits us a little bit. That's my key there.
I don't know if you noticed. I don't know if you noticed this, but who was the best running back last week for us?
The best running back for us last week? It wasn't DJ Dallas. I was more.
That's that's exactly what I'm saying. So they're scheming up these players. They're picking up yards untraditionally, and hey, if that's what you got to do for a week or two, that's what you got to do. So I don't know. I like it. I like more just the jet sweeps and all the other non-traditional running plays.
I love me jet sweeps. I've been asking for a while for these. You want to do 7 jet sweeps to lock it and more split the carries if you have to do it.
They really should just try more at running back. Why not? He knows the playbook and they run him anyway. It's come on, just use him as a running back. Why, fake the funk?
He's got it. I mean, he put up 26 reps on the bench at his pro day. I mean, the guy's got some. He
reminds me of what's the guy Montgomery from the Packers.
David Montgomery. Yeah, Montgomery.
That's what he remind me of. Body shape, every build and everything.
He does he is a little bit like that. I'd love it if they did that. Just, hey, we need a guy back there, throw him back there and let him roll. Let him see what he can do. You know what I mean? Here we go. So Dmac, we got what up? And thanks again, Ted Brogan, for that $5 donation. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Tobias, what is up? Good to see you both of you.
What's going on, Tobias?
OGU. Hope you are doing good. We're doing great, man. David Hyde, so glad to see Jamal is back. I feel a lot better about this game with Jamal back. As I said in my Sunday chat, Dmac, if we don't have Jamal in this game and no snacks and we're just throwing Carlos, I might lean towards pushing towards the Bills in this one. But him him as a factor is like almost in my mind worth like 3 points in this game. And that's the difference in probably winning it at this point from my standpoint. What do you think? You got to win on this one?
You know what's weird? I'm actually gonna I'm not gonna switch it up, man. On my page, I already did my prediction for the year, and I actually predicted that Buffalo is gonna beat us. You know, not by a lot. I think maybe by a field goal. So I'm not gonna go back on what I said, and I'm just gonna be honest with you. So.
And I'm totally doing that, by the way, because I was pretty ardent in my Sunday chat saying, nah, but I did give myself a little bit of room because I said if Jamal or Snacks comes back, either two, I felt better about because I knew Carlos would probably come into play. So I was like, two more defensive. Rasheem Green's coming back this week too, so we're getting some reinforcements.
Basically, what I said is we were going to lose four games this year, and this was one of the L's on the calendar. So I'm just gonna,
I appreciate the consistency, man. You're man of principle. B. Russ, do you think the Hawks bring Snacks up on the roster for this Sunday? Sorry, not. The holdup is he was big and fat probably when he came along. Sorry, I should probably have been more sensitive in this day and age. He was a little what do I need to say, Dmac? He was a little rotund.
Just out of shape. I mean, that's not bad to say. I mean, the guy is a big boy. So I mean, his name is Snacks. I mean,
that's right. If he ain't coming in, I would have been offended if he had come in underweight or something with his name Snacks. Like, wow, he's only about 320. It's kind of odd here. And I'm like, God, Snacks, man. Come on. So
come on, man. You gotta give me a little slack.
That's right. D. Brogan agrees with you, Dmac. He says Josh Allen seems like a pocket dude, but he can make some yards if needed.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ted. Yep. What is the running back health situation looking like? And we went over that a little bit.
Yeah, just go to your local ER unit and go to like the messiest place of the ER unit, and that's the equivalent of our running back situation, pretty much. Yep. You're getting Alex Collins is going to get a lot of important carries in this football game. Seattle saw enough of DJ Dallas last week. I'd be interested to hear what you got to say on this, Dmac. But I saw enough of DJ Dallas last week to know that him as a runner between the tackles, him as a guy who's asked to do much more than be like a third down running back is probably outside of his skill set.
Yeah, he's kind of slight. He's kind of light in the pants. He's a good catching back, but I mean between the tackles and I don't know.
Yeah, it ain't happening. So a guy like Collins got a little wiggle to him, a little bit of juice. He can maybe get you a few extra yards, but it's not good right now, David.
And also pass protection. I'm kind of nervous. I'm nervous, especially you protecting a guy like Russell Wilson. I want the best, pass protecting back I can find.
I was looking at them, and the tough thing with them is they're pretty solid down the line too. They've got multiple guys with multiple sacks. We all know Quentin Jefferson's an okay player. He's not spectacular solid. He signed a big contract with them. He's got a couple 2.5 sacks. Troy Murphy 2.5 sacks. Ed Oliver was kind of the freak guy that they drafted in the top 15. A lot of people have projected as like an Aaron Donald 3-tech type, right? Hasn't exactly been that here at this next level, but he's still a really good player for them. They have a couple other guys, Jerry Hughes, to kind of stand up defensive end, outside linebacker type guy at times. So they've got some people that can rush the passer and get after it. They're not just relying on one or two guys, which Seattle seems to have been okay this year. If there's a defensive line they go up against, it's just kind of got one guy to worry about. You think of like maybe the Falcons with like Fowler or something. Just they can kind of figure that out, and they'll work or Jarrett. They'll work their way through it. There'll be a couple times those guys pop though. But if you got multiple guys that are all kind of a threat, that'll be interesting to see, especially with Damian Lewis, who's been absolutely amazing as a run blocker, but he's been definitely had his struggles at times as a pass protector over there at the right guard. Alrighty, what we got here? B. Russ, they talked about Hawk Nation. Do you think DJ Dallas is good enough to help us put up points? So I guess we just talked on DJ. Probably he can help us put up points. Hawk, I like him as a third down back, don't you? D? He's got some soft hands and he runs good routes. And he got that touchdown.
Yeah, he's got good hands, but like everyday back, no.
Yeah, but in a role, we need a guy with a specialized role to me, because this is one of the things with getting the next back. If I anticipate we don't re-sign Carson because we want to save the money, what I've advocated for is for Seattle to draft between the 4th and 7th round every single year a running back, and then just let the best man ride. And then you've got good backups as well. If you can draft guys to be a first down, second down back because you got the third down back handled, now you can go to even more of a specialized skill set of a running back, right? You can go get a guy that's just right in this lane, and it makes it that much easier to find that guy to then replace the production loss once Carson leaves.
I agree.
Just a thought.
Ahmad is saying, do you think Adams' trade was a win for us currently?
Ahmad, I do, because I think that you're not going to be able to find another way to bring this type of talent onto the football team anytime soon. Yes, you have the 5th amount of most of cap space moving into next season. The Carlos Dunlap deal affects that a little bit, but that doesn't mean you had a whole bunch of money to go out there and get other people that would have been equivalent to what you're getting with him. You know, you may have signed a guy to a big deal, but is he as talented? Is he one of the best? Is he got a strong argument to be the best at his position, being strong safety in the league when he's rolling? He's not been that this year. There's a couple other guys that have been better, but he's in that conversation when he is. And we saw it in that first game against Atlanta. So to me, I still lean in the direction of saying it was a good trade. I want nothing to do with these drafts. The draft coming up right now, Dmac, for at least in the first round, picking through there, I would be very, very hesitant. I don't think a lot of people are going to want to trade.
It's going to be a lot of word of mouth from coach to coach, but which Carroll is connected. So, I mean, he's going to have a good time with it. But Tyrone says, is Dmac D-Boy's dad? That is negative. I am not D-Boy's dad. Dunlap deserves a Super Bowl. He does. And traditionally, now, I don't know if you guys know, everybody in the chat, I am from Cincinnati, Ohio. Traditionally, anybody that leaves the Bengals, they have instant success. So that is on our side. You can look at a ton of players. I mean, let me just talk about what's running back for
Corey Dillon.
Corey Dillon leaves Cincinnati, goes to the Patriots, and wins the Super Bowl the next year. So I mean, it's been done before by a lot.
Whitworth.
Yep. So
Whitworth's 45 years old, and he's playing some of the best left tackle in the league still for the Rams right now.
So traditionally, anybody that leaves Cincinnati has really good luck. So that's on our side.
It's like they've been playing with a 10-pound weight around their ankles, and the weight is now being released as they leave the facility. Like exactly. It's like they're clicking the weight off, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm a half step faster here." You know, it is. I'm going to be. Somebody mentioned what's going to be more fun to watch. I think I'm leaning back in the direction of just saying maybe it is Carlos Dunlap. He just comes out there and he's like, I'm going to show them all what's up right now.
Yeah, like who is this guy? Cincinnati. I'm like, who the hell is?
Like, where was this? Where was it? And it'd be such a Cincinnati move too.
Like, hold on,
guy who's got
the ink did not dry yet. We want him back. Like,
yeah. So he failed his physical, right? You said we had to. It's like they've written in like failed where it says passed and like written it, crossed it out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see on that. Space, what is up? Go Hawks. Space.
What's going on, Space?
Tyrone Pepe says, I think that our defense will shut them down to 17 points. We just need to blitz heavily with Wagner. Wagner is the best blitzing linebacker in the league. Push him there more. He can get us 8 sacks. It's feasible.
I like
feasible. Definitely feasible. Team 12 says, I really wish we had drafted Patrick Queen instead of Brooks. He's racking it up. I'm still in and Dmac, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. So we got to remember with the Ravens and the Seahawks, and even with the Seahawks blitzing as much as they do, the Ravens are so much more different. Yeah, it's the 3-4, and it's coming from all over the place, and it will allow a guy like that to maybe flourish a little bit more because people are going to have their attention in other places. Like, are you going to be if there's a blitz coming down on you and you're an offensive lineman, are you concentrating on Calais Campbell or are you concentrating on Patrick Queen? Are you concentrating on Matt Judon? Or you're concentrating on Patrick Queen. So it becomes one of those things where I think he's played really well. And I know he's got Pro Football Focus where he likes him a lot, but I still stand on the metric of if I've got to pick between Jordan Brooks and Patrick Queen as a player and looking at their film in college, I lean back to Jordan Brooks. But part of that reason also is because I see him as a long-term middle linebacker here, not as a will, which is where he's currently at. What's up, Randall McDaniel? How you doing? Dmac here, I got one for you. What do you
Randall,
think?
what's going on?
Maxwell asks, what do you think of our pass rush as of now? After the moves we made, was it enough? We got enough, Dmac?
I'm having a little difficulty with my headset real quick.
No worries. I'll take this one quick. I would have liked to have gotten one more, Maxwell, and this doesn't mean that we couldn't potentially still go pick up another one at some point here along the way. A scenario not a lot of people are talking about that could come down the pike here at some point is I think you could theoretically, if you've got people on a non-guaranteed deal right now and you're looking to already maybe shed some cap at the end of the season to get yourself up ahead of the cap situation coming into the next year, being it's going to go down to 175 million. Maybe you can release some players at the end of the year and find a way to maybe get them through. Now I've got to go through all the waiver stuff and whatnot. But all that being said, no, I would have liked to have seen one more Maxwell. If we go and get Clay Matthews tomorrow or within a couple of weeks, I'll feel a little bit better about it, but I do still think we're a little bit lean. I don't want to completely rely on Rasheem Green or Darrell Taylor as that next piece we need back in here. Benson Mayowa, it was confirmed by Pete Carroll today, he's got a high ankle sprain. So we need a little bit more in the tank. You back, Dmac?
Yep, I can hear you.
Do you think we should have done something else as far as the pass rush goes, or do you think we got enough with Dunlap now?
I think we did the best we could before the deadline. As you noticed, like nothing really went on before the trade deadline. We did the best we could to grab what we can. I think we've got enough to make a deep run in the playoffs right now. I'm actually happy with the moves we made.
And it could be enough. It really could be enough. I liked it. I just wanted to build a little bit more depth in behind because of where the position's at. But that being said, Dunlap's a good addition. You still potentially at some point down the road, if something got weird, could go get Clay Matthews if you had to, or maybe even another deal comes down that we're not even thinking about. David Hyde says, laughing out loud, is there a better linebacking trio in the NFL than Wagner, Wright, and Brooks? I think not. It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know on that one. And the Buccaneers got some good linebackers. I'm not totally sold yet on Brooks being anything. We don't know what he is quite yet. I mean, he's a moment here or there, he flashes, but he didn't jump off the screen to me. I don't think they played a lot of base defense in this last game either, though. So that did reduce some of his snaps because KJ's probably staying on the field at times over that. They're not flipping him out to my eyes. Maybe you guys can speak differently on that. But Randall asked, Dmac, money aside, who do you rather have, Dunlap or Clowney?
Clowney.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is where I personally, and look, I've got some bias in this fight, but this is where I do like to come in on the narrative that starts to set in for people because they look at Clowney now, he's got a little bit of a knee injury and he hasn't had a sack this year and he's got 11 pressures and they go, oh, see, proof. This is why we shouldn't have done it. And he would have been exactly like this here. And to me, that's just a harder thing to predict. What is his knee have acted up? Is he for sure here? Maybe. He's playing in a different scheme as well, though. Again, me and Dmac just talked about different schemes between the Ravens and the Seahawks. It's when you're comparing two different schemes in a player who, in my opinion, is more of a better fit as being a 4-3 down Leo end. That's what he was at South Carolina. He was a Leo end in a 4-3 defense at South Carolina. That's his natural position fit. Now he's rushing some from the outside, but you know how Vrabel is, Coach Vrabel, the coach of the Titans. I'm gonna do the Porky Pig on that one. And he likes he likes all the different blitzers, 3-4. Where's it coming from? You don't know who's blitzing, who's not, who's standing up, who's coming down. And then they put Clowney in that spinner role, which is standing up over the guard, where he loses all leverage. And these coaches love the thought of his quickness in there, but as his power and leverage gets neutralized in that spinner role. And I just come back to going, he's not in the right scheme. Don't you think? I mean, at the end of the day, wouldn't you want to put him on a 4-3 as it put his hand in the dirt and let him go?
For sure.
As opposed to having him moved around all over the place. Blindside rusher, quarterback can't see him coming. You know, that's what I want all day with him.
Mm-hmm.
Jose Rodriguez, how you doing?
Jose,
up, man?
Oh, we got Manuel with the $2 donation. So he says, "Hey guys, what have I missed? You missed it all, man. You missed it all. You got to hit that rewind button at the end, man. Get some more."
We got to be super
Seahawks
nice to
channel, baby.
Emmanuel is one of my 2 patrons. We got to be super nice to Emmanuel because Emmanuel's killing it, and they give me donuts. But Emmanuel,
that's my guy.
Emmanuel gets the special treatment for being a Patreon member. Emmanuel, we think the Bills matchup is one Seattle should take. Dmac's going to lean towards still thinking it's probably a loss at this point, just to stick to his predictions. But he actually, I think, in some of his analytical approach on this, I'm feeling like he's going to talk himself into favoring Seattle. We really like having Jamal back. That's going to help. And you get Carlos Dunlap back, Emmanuel. No Carson this week, though, folks. No Hyde. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, Emmanuel, to that, I'm just an honest man. And like I said, I made my predictions early on in the season. I did predict on the schedule that this was going to be an L. I know a lot of things that can change between the start of the season to now. But I'm an honest man. And like I said, I'm going to stick to my guns saying that we're going to have 4 losses this season. One of the reasons why I said that we're going to lose the game is because traditionally our defense, we do good against teams that are like the quarterbacks. They're just kind of like stationary. They're just like statues in the pocket, not too mobile. And so we do really good against those quarterbacks. As you saw when we played Arizona, quarterbacks that can extend plays, escape the pocket, and do different things and, make something out of nothing are traditionally the teams that give our defense a little bit of problems. So on that note, they still have Josh Allen that is a little bit mobile, that has a huge arm and can make all the throws. Yes, he's inconsistent, But I still think he's the quarterback that gives us problems. So.
And I agree with Manuel. I agree with his take on that. I think that's the thing. The combination of having legs and an arm. He's not accurate. I think to Dmac, he's going to give us a couple times where he'll put the ball in our defender's hands. Dunbar is going to get his hands on the ball in this game. Whether he catches it seems like a 50-50 approach at this point this year because the guy could have had like damn near 8 interceptions by this point.
Right.
So he's going to have a chance. Maybe another guy like Jamal gets it on a tip because he throws it up. Maybe he gives a fumble because he's not going to slide and try to go for that first down when he should get down on his knee.
Yeah, Josh Allen, he will fumble too. He holds on to the ball traditionally, and he's not too like ball security quarterback. Like he's kind of loose with it.
Randall McDaniel asked Dmac, when do we start worrying about running back depth?
Now, yesterday.
Yeah. It's again beast mode time. Maybe he's not as fast, maybe he's not as quick, but he'll get out and show out. He'll get onto the football field every week and be there in availability. And he's a great pass protector.
I mean, but isn't that our luck though? We're worrying about pass rushers. Now we got to worry about rushing the ball. Like it's like one unit we get healthy and then the next unit is decimated. Like I don't know.
It's one thing with the process. Dmac are building a team around a running back now. I mean, there's maybe running backs that are more built better to do this and handle this, but it seems like our backs every single year get decimated down the line. This has been going back to like 2015, where I think in that year you had Jawan Lewis, Dawan Harris or something taking valuable carries for you against the Vikings in the playoff game. That's not where you want to be. And you're heading for that direction again, which is again why I say just get beast mode in here. Like Carlos Hyde, you could release out right now. I think it'd save a couple million on the rest of his salary. If he's not healthy, then get him out of here. He's on a 1-year deal. I'm sorry. We need availability in our running backs right now. I got to be a little bit heartless and cruel if I'm a general manager right now and how I go about my approach on that. I can't be back down to Travis Homer and DJ Dallas at the end of the season. That's unacceptable. Don't you think so? It just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, real quick. I just want to address Jose. So Jose says he won't be here on Sunday. So we will mod. I will try to hook you up with a mod on that. So I'll look at trying to get you set up in my background after the stream today. Go ahead. You're up, Dmac.
Okay. So we got Shervin says they're excited to see Jamal again, which you're excited to see Jamal again. I'm more excited to see Dunlap, but yeah, we're all happy that he's back.
Just want to see the fruits of that trade show out. It's like that first game in the Falcons had all of us that were so in favor of the trade nodding and going, yep, this is exactly what, you and I watched the game, Dmac. We're just going, yep, that's what you should get. You get that out of 2 first-round picks and a third. That's about right. And he as delivered, as promised.
Yeah.
So
left us on a cliff, just, wanting more.
That's right. I want to see more of that in this defense and what it can do and where it can take this defense and its effect. Ted Brogan comes in with another $5 donation, bro. Thank you so much, Ted.
Appreciate it, Ted.
You, man. He says, sorry, guys, I meant the election, not erection. But my Freudian slip will be okay as long as Kamala Harris is elected.
We don't talk politics over here, just Seahawks.
We do. But hey, like I said, I love your Freudian slip. It was very apropos, and it worked both ways. It worked, the meaning of it kind of fit in both directions. But thank you again for that $5 donation. Appreciate it.
Daddy Dennis says, go Seahawks.
Go Hawks.
More been missing practices. More screens to DK, please.
David Moore's been missing practices.
Yeah.
He's going to get a little beaten up when he's running these. That's the one downside of running these fly sweeps is he's going to be smacked around and beat up a little bit, taking a few extra shots they don't take on the outside. So, but hey, if you just need it for a short period to Dmac's point on this week, just do it for this week. You're going to have Carson's going to come back sooner than later. Hyde will be back sooner than later. Homer at least be able. So just something to maybe utilize this weekend and put something on film that's going to now make the teams have to prepare for you down the road. And let's face it, the thing I've been harping on with the fly sweep over and over is it works every time. Even if you want to make your metric of what's work, well, if he gets 6 yards, that's if I'm a running back getting 6 yards a carry, that's elite. That's the best of the best. So right. if I have 6 yards there to get every single time to go to it. I think teams get really locked in on our inside zone in between our tackles a lot, Dmac. I don't know if you agree, but they will start to really condense and crush the inside of that pocket.
The gaps, yeah. They'll pinch a lot more. Yeah.
They'll pinch, right? So they're not as worried about the edges. This is where Rashad Penny will eventually maybe hopefully help things out too when he comes in because he's great about that, getting to the edges. Shervin says more screens to DK. You like to see that? A few more bubble screens out there to DK?
Of course, man. He's a physical just monster. I think the reason why they don't use him in the screen game, they know that it's really a dangerous, play when you got, guys are really screaming and hauling tail to, come break up screen plays. I mean, you get bigger linemen in there that's running to chase down screens, and also you get a lot of unorthodox tackles from behind and stuff. So somebody can roll up on his ankle and really seriously probably hurt DK. So that's why they're not using him in the screen game, because they know it's really a high probable chance that you're going to get injured on some of those plays, because they'll just run up on you and roll up on your ankle and you'll get hurt in that screen game. So that's why they're using a little bit more than DK.
I like it too as a little feather you have to pull out at the end of the game, strategy wise. Like you've not run it to DK all game. You're in a place where you've got the corner playing off coverage 10 yards because they're worried about his speed. Fourth quarter, you need 7 yards, and Russell can then on that point throw it, and they're so off guard.
They did. Think about the Arizona game when
we
thought we won. Like
that Arizona, and think about it too. Remember the Dolphins game to close that one out. They ran the bubble on that one too, and he almost housed it. He got right down near the end zone, and then they knocked him out of bounds. So they did it in that one too. So this is how they're implementing it. Which they'll
get it to DK if they actually need to get it to DK, but they're not going to just run 5 or 6 screens just to pick up a first down. They're going to throw more in there.
Right. I think you got to maintain it, but just keep it for that time when you need it back pocket. Just like I was talking about pass rushers, we got a tackle set up for end game when they can pull off a move that's going to just the tackle's not going to be ready for because they've been setting it up.
Ted says use more a little bit more. So
yeah, we're in favor of that.
Agree with you on that.
Agreed. Very much.
Daddy Dennis is saying DJ Dallas is going to be the man. Check his clips on YouTube. Put some respect on this man's name. I like it.
He is. As a third down back, I think he can be one of the better ones in the league because if you take in all the skills, it's a different skill set. That's what I like about it. It's specialized. It's like it's like back in the day, the Mariners had Edgar Martinez as the designated hitter. And that's what he did. He didn't go play the field. That's what he did. You get a guy specialized in their role. And that's what I like with Dallas. Soft hands. I think he's got the talent to pass protect. That was his big claim to fame, Dmac, in this last draft. He was the best pass protecting running back in this last draft by a consensus. So if he can bring just those skill set alone, along with a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of tenacity, a little bit of heart, like, all right, you got something there's a third down back. But just
he might have the heart to pass protect, but I mean, he's been getting thumped around what I've seen, but I don't know. Maybe that could be just like scheme stuff though, because he wasn't expected to be thrown in. Maybe that's what it was. He got through in the game and he's like, I don't really, you know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I'm going off reputation with that completely, to be honest with you. I have not seen anything that shows me him stepping up and just homers looked better as a third down and back in pass protection this year so far, but it's what they said about him. Everybody was just praising him. I remember during draft day, everybody talking about just going, okay, I get it. He can pass protect. That's great.
Right, woo. How many points is that?
Yeah. What's that going to do for the scoreboard again? But okay,
Jeff Rhines is saying, what's up guys? Glad you're back streaming today. Let's go Hawks.
What's up, Jeff? Go Hawks.
Jeff.
Daddy Dennis, Bills are in a death spiral. Could be. I mean, what they lose live? They lost to some team last week that was just a horrible loss. They shouldn't have. It was a team that they had no business losing to. They could. It's definitely possible. They could have also lost that Rams game that they ended up winning. That came down to a call at the end of the game that easily could have gone against them. So it is a team that maybe this is a lot more winnable now as a game than we thought coming into this season at this moment. I'll definitely admit to that. Oh, it was Ty Montgomery, Randall. David Montgomery was somebody else. David Montgomery. There was another David Montgomery.
I knew it was Montgomery something.
Yeah. Montgomery. Yeah, I just got to stick to Montgomery. Shervin says Snacks is ready, but Pete is treating him like a third or fourth stringer. I think that they want, again, there's some things going on here that I think are some deep strategy plays here. This is what I'm trying to talk about too with the, keeping the back pocket for DK in the screen. We knocked the coaching staff for simplicity. We knocked the coaching staff for sometimes not having a lot of a wide berth and depth of stuff that they do out on the football field. But there's also some things that happen in the background that do have a little bit of intelligence in their approach to them. And one of them is how Pete Carroll builds his teams towards the end of the season. Other than last year when you were decimated by injuries, throughout Pete Carroll's history here with the Seahawks over 10 years, his teams have gotten better as the year goes on. They get seemingly more healthy, stronger, better. And it's all purposely done. getting Snacks in here, getting Carlos Dunlap. Yeah, it's to also help out the line and the talent, but it's also to reinforce the ranks, which they've done to the nth degree this year. When you look at the guys coming back, when you look at from the Parkinsons coming back, the Rashad Pennies coming back, all the things that they've set up in line to make sure that they don't have any situations injury wise that allow them to get decimated like we saw last season. And I think that that's what that Snack signing is to me in a little degree. I think he's still a good player, but as we just talked about earlier in this deal, go look up Shervin's, go look up the initial picture he shot on the practice field of Snacks Harrison. You know, he was looked legit 4+. He was legit 4 bills.
And a part of that too is, like I said, they've got all type of nutritionists and doctors out there. They're not going to put this man on the field if he's not in physical shape and condition to be out there. Like I said, you go acquire a guy like that just to put him out there, just to get him hurt. Like it doesn't make any, not only from a business standpoint, but just, you don't want to put your players in that harm if they're not in shape and physically ready to go. I think a lot of people underestimate the nature and the physical nature of this game, and protecting all these players, and I think that has something to do with it.
I do too, and that's the thing we've got to talk about here is that we're seeing all these injuries across the league right now, and people are wondering, why are we having all these injuries? Well, you had no offseason mini camps, no offseason rookie camps, no training camps, no preseason games, and the same is going to be true for these veterans. Just having them come in and walk in on the field, you have so much more of a likelihood of getting injured. We talk about Clowney, who held out all through training camp of signing a deal. Then he comes in last minute. Now he's got a bit of an injury thing. Last year had a bit of an injury thing. No training camp. You need to have things you put in place to prepare your body. You can't just walk in off the street. And I just wanted to show. So this is Snacks when he first got on with Seattle, as you guys can hopefully see here a little bit. But this is Snacks right there. Okay, so he was in a big state when he first arrived. He needed some time, Shervins, to get himself back in there and back to being at least ready to get on the field where he can carry that 400-pound weight. I think you can kind of see it's probably a bad angle.
And Daddy Dennis says Josh Allen, 4 TDs and 4 interceptions over the last 4 games. He's been playing pretty bad. And that goes to what we said. He can be really great in spurts. He can be really bad in spurts. He's going to definitely turn the ball over. He's not like a guy that's going to just, take care of the ball and ball security. He is trending downwards, like we stated. But just like anything, like Josh Allen, he's a good quarterback, just like anything, just like stocks. Anything that goes down must come back up. So at some point he's going to bounce back. We just hope it's not going to be this week.
I think too, if we're going to, let's be real with Josh Allen, wherever his state is as far as how he's playing right now, to me, he's a long-term good quarterback in this league. The quarterbacks are allotting themselves from the recent draft into different camps. And to me, you've got your Baker Mayfields and your Sam Darnolds, those type of players in their own kind of camp. And then you've got your Deshaun Watsons, your Josh Allens, the guys that maybe aren't in the league of the Mahomes and Russell Wilsons and Rodgers type, but they're in there just barely below that in that next tier. I think that Allen Zinda is going to be moving into that tier. Whether he's there and arrived yet right now, I don't know. But I think he's moving in that direction. He's going to mature. I think he came in as a pretty young player into this league. So he's got that. And what you get with that is inconsistency. 1 week or a couple weeks he starts looking bad. Then a couple weeks he starts looking good. He's not able to put things together as congruently as you would expect from an older player who's got his feet wet and he's really ready to roll. So I would expect some of this inconsistency in a guy's only in his 3rd season.
Right. Daddy Dennis says, I've never predicted a Seahawks loss in my life. Are you kidding me?
I got you, man. It's hard pressed for me to do it, and I usually talk myself out of it by the time we get to game time. Randall McDaniel, Cordell Patterson is basically a converted wide receiver to running back too.
That's true.
Yeah, it's very true. Basically, that's what he's been doing here. Daddy Dennis says he moved piles and secured the ball. Don't sleep on DJ. He moved piles. I did not see one pile of the last game that was moved by one DJ Dallas. When a guy got their hand on him, he came to a very quick and abrupt halt, stop. And that's and this is a lot of what I saw in my eyes too, Daddy, of going back to his college film and what I saw. I was a little lukewarm on him at that time. I've warmed up on him a little bit. But at the end of the day, the concerns I still have back in the day are still the concerns now. He's not a guy with a lot of variances of moves. He's not a spin move, juke guy, stiff arm. Doesn't have a lot of that. Just kind of puts his head down and tries to go forward, which would be great if you could pull the pile and fall forward. But he doesn't really do that. So maybe we need maybe a little more data to get some conclusions on this, and I'll be open to it, Daddy. But right now I think me and Dmac have kind of seen at least enough for us to kind of nod and go, I don't know on this
Yeah,
one.
seen a lot of football being played, and we can kind of gauge people pretty fast. But yeah. Um, Team 12's Colin says is confused. He's saying the most random things. He'll say something like Drew Lock might be the MVP this year. Now he's saying he's not suitable for the NFL quarterback to be an NFL quarterback. And like
Colin Coward was saying that.
Colin Coward, yeah. Yeah, he says a lot of different things. He's hot or cold. It's all about the weather at that moment. If it's raining, he's gonna say it's raining. If it's sunny, he's gonna say it's sunny. So he's just all about that moment. He doesn't like really give a true take and stay to his word like me. That's honest about my take about having 4 losses this year and just being real with yourself. So I don't know.
Well, I agree. He puts his finger up here in the weather and says, "What's the good hot take today that's going to send people up in a flurry to get me clicks and views?" I like Coward. He's got some stuff he says that's actually I think on point, but maybe if he's got a fatal flaw, that would be it. Where it's like just he can't stick to what he believes in because he's going to be moved and swayed by too many different variances.
It's just like one of those things when you lie, you got so many lies out there. It's hard to kind of stay with the same topic. It's like I lied about so much stuff. It's all blending together. So I don't know.
Exactly. Brandon McDaniel says maybe we see the tight end step up in this game. Been waiting for Will Disley to get featured a little bit more now as we get into the season. Say nothing of Olsen, who we're spending $7 million on this year. Say nothing of Hollister, who we're spending $3.2 million on this season. We're certainly not getting a lot from the tight end position at this point, which is last year was working pretty good early on there with Disley. It's not been at the same place. So I'd be with you, Randall. I'd be open to it. And you'd certainly figure one point or another, these defenses are going to watch the film and realize we're not really featuring the tight ends too much and then just concentrate on those outside guys and double them up or move them out of the field to play at that point. I don't know. It's been odd. It's been odd.
And Dennis is saying Bills beat the Jets 18-10. Please have no fear, Dmac. Like I said, I hope we win. Like don't get me wrong. I hope we win. Like I said, anything can happen. This is the big boy league. This is the NFL. And like I said, guys, it sounds good in theory to just show up and say, hey, they're gonna lay down for us. But and you got to think we're on the road. We're traveling to the East Coast. It might be really cold in their weather. I mean, you got to factor a lot of stuff in, man.
And the other thing is the divisional games, when you use those as weighted games to show, okay, well, they should have crushed the Bills or the Jets, but they didn't. Look across the league at division games week in and week out. Look at the look at the Vikings taking on the Packers and the Vikings looking like their season's done and they're going to lay down, yet they just step on the Packers because these teams have a lot of familiarity with each other, which leads to closer games. What did we see in our game this year against the Cardinals in the opening week? We went down to overtime and nearly ended up in a tie. It's just the nature of divisional matchups across the league that they tend to be close matchups. You probably don't take much from it if there happens to be a close fight, because that's just what you see normally. More often than not, it seems like, at least. Shervin's asked, what's up with Rashad Penny? He's going to be a post-week 8 designation IR for return. That was his initial status given. So I would estimate that they would probably activate him after week 8. Then they'll give him 2 weeks to get him reintegrated back into the offense and get his legs underneath him and then go. So if I was doing a soft prediction, probably somewhere around week 10 or 11, you're going to see Rashad Penny back into it. That'd be my guess.
Yep, I'll say week 11.
Dmac, here's one for you. Why are people so worried about our running back room? Chris Carson should definitely be back next week. And Hyde is getting healthier, even though he will be out.
Worried about it is because, like I said, traditionally Carson, even though people paint Carson as a guy that get injured a lot, he's really not. But I mean, right now, I mean, we're very thin. I mean, we weren't high on Homer anyway. When we first started the year, we were like, why is Homer even getting features? Carlos Hyde, he's showing that, for the first time that he's being like injury prone. I mean, because all his, his whole career, he's been pretty good as far as, staying on the field. All of a sudden he comes to us and he's, shoulder issues. He's got all these different problems and ailments. And like I said, and we're going in the second half, we need to be, this is the part of the schedule where we need to have all of our, because our running backs, they set up a lot of what we do as far as, Russell with his, play faking and, and all that stuff. So our running backs is the livelihood to our offense, if you really think about it. Play action from Russell Wilson and all these different things. You're not going to get a lot of people biting on play action if you've got DJ Dallas picking up 2.5 yards a pop, 3 yards of, you know what I mean? So you got to kind of start thinking at like the grand scheme of things. It's not that we're just freaking out because, you know, they'll be back or whatever, all these different things. You got to look at it from the bigger perspective.
Exactly. That's my thing on it too. I agree with him on it. It's great to let Russ cook, but if our running backs aren't challenging anything in the defensive line, we're in trouble. This last week in our blitz game, what we did is we sort of played the run to then get to the quarterback. So this took the San Francisco 49ers out of their running game very much early on. It's the same situation with us. When you get teams that are going to come down and try to take the running game and blitz heavy on us, which has been kind of somewhat of a formula that has worked with some of the better teams on us, that then leaves us with the single matchups on the outside that we can exploit. Then when those matchups go to the cover two, when they drop back those safeties to take some deep coverage, now the running game opens up. But if you don't have the running back who can't really challenge it, he can't take advantage of those holes that will be then there to be taken advantage of. And I don't think Dallas can. I don't think necessarily Homer can. It's not to say they're bad players. It's just they're not the right element of what we need for it to work. And this, again, draws me back to why you should bring in Marshawn Lynch. In my opinion.
And just think about it. Our offensive line isn't any kind of monster of an offensive line. They're not creating any kind of room for running backs. Our running backs are the ones that initiate all the yardage. Like, I mean, just look at Ezekiel Elliott. He's struggling without that offensive line now. He was the best running back in the NFL. Now he's he's bottom, 30 running back right now, because if that offensive line is not good, he can't do anything. And so, I mean, it is what it is.
It is. It comes back to, this is why you don't pay running. Again, turning this point a little bit around, this is why you don't pay running backs. This is why you looked at, I was saying from the 4th to the 7th round, because if you concentrate on the line and you get the offensive line in good shape, and a guy like Damian Lewis and Ethan Posick, now that we have his little building blocks there to do just this, you don't need the running back to be Ezekiel Elliott top 5 pick. Then you don't need that. It's more easily rotatable in as far as that goes.
David Hyde is saying, do we see Kobe anytime at the tight end position since he is now healthy? Have not been happy with Olsen production.
Oh, Olsen has failed he's failed to impress me. You too, Dmac? I haven't seen.
Yeah, he showed flashes, but not consistently enough.
There's not been enough there for, again, and you just can't help but think about that $7 million salary, and that $7 million salary going to maybe another pass rusher. For instance, the top of the market that you're going to pay on Clowney was $9 million. You take that $7 million and put it to that, and maybe we shouldn't go down that path, but they have had 4 tight ends active in game during the season. So that has happened, David, where they've had all 4 of them out actually on the football field at once, even on one play. Now it was to kneel at the end of the game, but it was still cool. Yeah, maybe. The thing is with this, though, is that they're going to try to validate the Hollister signing, the $3.2 million. And they've been featuring him actually a decent amount, almost more than Olsen and Disley at times. So I think they're still going to stick back on Hollister if there's not an injury. So it'll take an injury for Colby to probably get out on the football field, in my opinion. Penny is getting close to coming back. That's true. I'm gonna go through these quick here, Dmac, so we catch up a little bit. Can you guys talk about the NFC East at this time? It's looking like the Eagles or the Cowboys are going to the playoffs, but there's a point I don't think they can win in the playoffs. I think you kind of answered your own on that one, don't you think,
right.
Dmac?
I think the Eagles got that division, and like I said, it's gonna stop at that. I mean, they're not doing anything in the playoffs at all.
Yeah, I mean, Wentz is wild enough to pull off a playoff win, but is he going to get much deeper than that? No, and I would be surprised to see him where they will probably be at that point. I can't think, and he's played so crazy. He'll make the wonderful throw, but then he's like 2 or 3 other throws that are just off point. But they're going to win it. I agree with Dmac. They've got the win on this one, in my opinion. So, and there's not much to talk about with that division past that. Just it is what it is. I sure like to hear the rumor. There was rumor out there that Brandon Graham was maybe going to get traded to the Hawks. The deadline sucks that one didn't go through. That would have been really cool to get that kind of addition. Ted Brogan says, when it comes to Cowherd, I only listen to his Russell Wilson talk. Fair enough. I know there's some people that don't like Cowherd. Dmac, Daddy Dennis Bengals have made 2 trades during the season in the last 20 years. Dunlap is huge.
Yep. That is a fact.
It is a fact. That's the reason for a lot of you on here who listened, one of the reasons I said I don't think there'll be a trade deadline deal with Dunlap, because the Bengals have been so hardened in their
Just tight.
approach,
Yeah.
tight and sillily. I mean, it's just another one of those owners. There's about 4 or 5 owners in this league that are doing their organizations and
That's
franchises
what scares
harm.
me. It's like, do Cincinnati know something that we don't know? Them being so tight with letting players go. So
Well,
I don't know.
the one thing they are also second to being tight on letting players go is the second. You could almost argue they're even tighter in this. Is that their butthole tightens up when it comes to money. So if they've got the
Oh
opportunity
yeah, they're
to
the
shed a
cheapest
guy's
franchise in history.
$5 million, you know what I mean? Like that's that they get to
That
shed
could
now
be
by
it.
offloading
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's like that's an onus for them, and great. We can take
Sher-
advantage of that all
Shervin,
day long.
Shervin's just saying Rams are looking like frauds. I don't view them as a threat to win the division, but we still match up poorly with them. Cardinals are the biggest threat we have to beat them next game.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said, Shervin. So I'm sure Dmac's on board with this too. The
I'm
Rams
actually not.
no. Give me your take on this.
I'm actually not. I actually think the Rams, from a matchup standpoint, I think the Rams give us more problems. Again, I know the Cardinals beat us, but we weren't fully like healthy. We didn't have all our players. I think we'll beat the Cardinals, and I think we'll lose one to the Rams. We'll split with the Rams.
Wow. It could be. I could see it going down that way. And it seems like we're going to be playing them at home and we're going to be motivated on that next game. I think against the Cardinals, that the whole spirits up thing, because we lost that tough one. The last one's going to probably drive a little bit of that one. And I do agree. I think that there's a good argument to be made that the Rams are a tougher matchup against us. The thing I do go back to, maybe the thing for me that is a separator at this point, is Kyler Murray and his willingness and his ability to use his legs at this point, and Jared Goff's inability and unwillingness to use his legs as much. Goff relies so much off that play action stuff. We stop the run well. We're not going to look at as much of a threat. We're going to come downhill on that play action. I'm picturing Jamal coming on a blindside blitz off of a play action that Goff doesn't even see, and that becomes a problem for the new Rams offense, because that's how they've adjusted their offense to it. But I could see it happening, and they're still a tough matchup.
I'm thinking Jamal Adams. He's the Kyler Murray eraser.
It could be. It definitely could be.
He's a Kyler Murray eraser, and I think the Rams give us fits because they just throw so many exotic plays and things, and it kind of makes your defense undisciplined because you got all these moving parts at the snap, and so that team actually to me is more frustrating than a team that's just sitting there, drop back and pass. Like,
is there any part of you though that wonders this year? The Rams have been one of the most successful teams at attacking Seattle's scheme with those Seattle beater plays, is what they're called. The crossers, for instance, deep crossers that they've killed us for years, and the outsides. And so now they're going to play us in this high blitz mode where we're blitzing more than any team. Jamal's blitzing. Their scheme and how they built it was there to kind of beat us specifically at the time. That's why they hired McVay. That's what his whole forecast was. How do I get Seahawks off the top of this division and overtake them, was sort of at the forefront of his mind. Now you've almost flipped everything on its head versus what you had it as. Do they flourish as much against this new style of scheme, blitz heavy stuff as much? And maybe we haven't stopped a whole lot of people in the air this year. So
I think all the like motion and all the crazy stuff and exotic stuff that they do offensively forces you not to blitz. It will literally bite you in the butt if you blitz that type of style of offense. That's why I think they take us out of that blitz heavy type of. We'll see.
Even if Jamal's got that read thing he does, because where he can read a thing.
Jamal will make his plays here and there that can when he knows. But I'm saying everybody else from a schematic standpoint are going to be on their heels because they're not going to know what's going on. They don't know if it's pass or run, and so that gives you that hesitation to pin your ears back to just go all out on a blitz. Yeah. And so I don't know.
Makes sense.
Cause a lot of confusion, I think.
Makes sense. Ted says, I dare y'all to talk NFC East. That's a challenge for when ESPN is talking about that division. We're not going to talk a lot about that division. There's not a lot to talk about. So.
Right.
Mindy V. Hey, Minnie. How you doing?
What's going on,
Good
Mindy?
to see you back in the chat. Daddy Dennis says, Rams have too much Goff at quarterback. Their mismanagement of the cap is showing for sure. They've got a dark day coming, Dmac. There's a dark day. Now they got rescued a little bit by Bill O'Brien with the Brandon Cooks contract and getting that offloaded, and then the Todd Gurley deal to the Falcons. They got some of that offloaded. If the teams had just made them hold their feet to the fire on both those deals, they'd be in an even crazier shape. But they just signed Jamal Adams to the big deal. The Goff deal's hitting pretty strong. They're going to have some cap problems here coming up. They've got to win this year. They're in an actual low-key go-for-it year right now. I think they've got to offload if they don't this year, as I understand it, with some of the way that their cap hit comes down for the next season.
Shervin says PFF actually hates Patrick Queen. He's a abysmal 32 rating on there.
Wow. I didn't know. I thought he was actually a darling of theirs. I thought they had shown that he was good. But then that's, again, just more further proof as to me being why I favor Jordan Brooks. I think Queen doesn't have the physicality, thump speed that Brooks had a little bit better coverage instincts and coverage ability. But my value was looking through it in the lens of Brooks was a middle linebacker as we move into the future, and he'll be a damn middle linebacker when he slides into that role.
All right, everybody, we're going to do rapid response. We're going to try to get through these messages as fast as we can. We're kind of behind a little bit.
Yeah, we'll go.
We apologize for that.
Dirty Dom, do you think we should consider Vic Beasley? You like Vic Beasley, Dmac?
No.
No. Yeah, even $1 million? I get you $1 million. You give me $1 million right now. I'll give you Vic Beasley. What do you say?
No.
950. I'm probably leaning in that direction too. He's a guy I don't want any players in here who have a question their love of the sport. Too many fluctuations in his production through the years that makes me think he goes for it when really pressed and has to go get that contract. And then when he doesn't, he takes his foot off the gas pedal and relaxes a little bit.
Ahmad says the Jets will be very good in 4 years. They have a gazillion picks. That is true.
The key though here with that, Ahmad, is this: the next head coach they choose. They chose the worst of the worst head coach in Adam Gase in there. They've had Todd Bowles in there. Wasn't a good selection. Better coordinator than coach. They've got to go find a coach that's a legitimate guy in there, not just a guy that kind of just treads water through there for them, but a guy that can take advantage of those draft choices and team build. And they've got some talent in spots, but they got a lot of work to do with those picks too. It's not like they're sitting on good young players. They're just ready to explode here. They've got very few many guys.
Mindy is saying she's excited for the game. I think we all are.
I am too, Mindy. I mean, I think it's going to be a close fight. It's going to be probably more fireworks. We know we're in for another heart attack Hawks week, right, folks? Oh, yeah. Everyone get your heart medication. What do they say? You're supposed to take aspirin every day to take all that stuff, because you're going to need to just be preparing your soul and body for this Sunday. You know it's going to be lit. Clara says hello from New York. What's up, Clara? I talk about the most week 9 Buffalo Bills. I do hear Josh Allen's left shoulder is not 100%. Clooney is injured. I think Clooney's their guard, I believe. One of their really good guards. Am I right on that one, Clara? But that's okay. Left shoulders. Of course, quarterbacks can deal with the left shoulder when you're a right-handed guy. So it's going to hurt a little bit when you throw, probably, if it's sore or something, but at least he can still probably get rid of it. And they may inject him before the game where he doesn't even feel it. These guys seem to take those injections. You ever take an injection, Dmac?
Never.
Little Toradol, little wake up juice.
Never.
Little happy go lucky.
Smelling salt, nothing. I ain't
little Mr. Play Nice today.
No.
Mr. I don't have a worry in the world.
Ted is saying, dude had 2 fumble returns for a touchdown.
He's wild with the ball. I think he's talking about Josh Allen.
Oh.
Is that what he's talking about? Who are you talking about, Ted?
He might be talking about Clooney. Probably. I don't know.
Clooney? They do have a good rookie there who is one of their, I think he's like a slot corner or something.
Dennis is saying the Jets are owned by a terrible owner, Woody Johnson. Just bad.
Proof's in the pudding. They haven't won for years, Daddy. So that speaks to your point on that, right? I mean, if you as an owner of an organization 20, 30, 40 years, and you haven't even gotten close to sniffing the mountaintop, you're doing something wrong, probably. The sheer law of odds should find you there at some point or another, and something ends up showing out. That is what it is, in my opinion. So, I'd agree with that. Probably not one of the best owners. There's not a lot of fantastic owners, a lot of middle of the road owners. He's probably more of a middle of the road owner, but he needs to hire better. How do you guys feel about Luke Wilson? How do you guys feel about this being Luke Wilson's last year? So Dmac, of course, Luke Wilson just got cut. Longtime Seahawk, kind of a darling of the fan base for he's here during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he kind of. I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel bad about it. I mean, Disley is a better tight end, and I don't feel too bad about it.
Colby Parkinson's the future for us over there at that joker position. He's going to take over for Hollister after this year. He's the third. You don't really need 4 tight ends, really, but it's okay to have this year. But you didn't need 5, that's for sure. So you had to lean into what you had to lean into on that one.
He
Leroy,
kind of remind me of Jermaine Kearse. Like, you know what I mean? What
Luke,
Jermaine Kearse meant to Seattle, like, you know.
very much so. Not a perfect player, just a certain type of player that fit for what the role that they had them in. And for a time there, he was a pretty good second tight end for us
Right.
in the spots we needed, spot start
Right.
guys. So yeah, I like Luke though. Luke will be solidly remembered in Seahawks.
What's going on, Leroy?
Leroy, I like to say his last name, Estevan. I gotta say it like that, Estevan. How you doing, Leroy? No, you gotta say that, Estevan. It's whispered.
Estevan.
See, there you go. See, it comes off way more when you whisper it. Team 12s, did you see the news of the Raiders, them being fined $500,000 and they lost their 6th round draft pick? It seems a little odd. I mean, this is a weird year. Stuff's going to happen with things. They're trying to, I guess, lock things down. So I guess they had to, but it seems a little punitive, doesn't it, Dmac? A little bit over, like,
Yeah.
it seems a little much to me, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Evergreen, Evergreen says Luke Wilson's massively overrated. Cool locker room guy, but below replacement level on the field. Can't disagree with you, Evergreen. I think he, again, just had a set role during his time here when he was, if we're going to say rolling, I don't know if he's ever really rolling like he was a stalwart here. But when he was in as a role guy who could use that speed occasionally to get up the field and beat a defense over the top, you know, he had a little bit of, you know, but I agree. Probably if you were to take him in the Pro Football Focus grades, he's a below league average player throughout his career. That's a fair assessment.
Ted says Clowney is a dude that numbers can. What?
Ted, you have to expand on that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Shervin's is going to be a crazy race for all pro receivers. I see D-Hop, Devontae Adams, and DK as the 3 guys that are fighting for the first team all pro. Does that sound good to you, Dmac?
Yeah,
Mike
for
Evans
sure.
Mike Evans going to be probably in there?
No, not Mike, not
No?
Mike Evans. No.
Oh, okay. No. Okay. Okay. I feel like there's one other guy went out there. Oh, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek, maybe?
And not even Tyreek. Oh, he's kind of having like a up and down kind of like year so far.
Okay.
Like consistently, like Adams, DK, yeah, D-Hop, yeah.
Okay. Ahmad asked, do you think the Pets will bench Cam Newton, Dmac? You think he'll become the Jared Stidham age?
They already did. No, yeah, I mean it's definitely possible they benched him in the game already. So
yeah, I think he's especially once Edelman went out and the receiving core really dropped off. They've just not the talent on the receiving core for the Patriots last few years has been honestly, Dmac, one of the more strange things positional grouping wise. The Packers are the only other team that I look at and I go, why don't you guys seem to have any kind of plan at the wide receiver position? Like Devontae Adams is great, but then you have a whole bunch of guys with hyphenated names that I can't say that don't do anything on the football field really. Like, why wouldn't you want to pair your Hall of Fame quarterback with fantastic options?
I heard Rodgers was pretty upset that they didn't go grab a wide receiver before the trade deadline. So
I don't like Rodgers, and he had every right to be mad about that situation.
Rodgers need to leave that situation, man. I mean, it's just like
he's at that
Brett Favre position right now with.
Yeah, well, I mean, you drafted Jordan Love, and they're going to want to do something with Jordan within 2 years. So if he's not in playing, then they're trading him, and you think more likely he's probably playing, and Rodgers is being traded at that point. But one of the moves that the Packers made that at the end of the year we might be looking back and going, boy, if they had just had one more receiver, one of these good receivers in this draft, maybe they'd be in so much of a better position than where they are versus what they did. You know. We got if DK goes for 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns, he has to be first team. I agree. I'd
be a Hall of Famer. What are you talking about?
No, he means this year.
I know.
Oh yeah, he's on that Hall of Fame trajectory. Ahmad asked Dmac, what are your other losses?
Oh, what are my other losses? Actually, so
2 more.
So I predicted. What's weird is I'm gonna be honest. I predicted the Rams. We were gonna lose to the Rams twice actually this year, and I said the Buffalo, and then it's one other game I can't think of it right now. I'm gonna look it up.
Cowboys, do you have us?
Let me see. It was one to the 49ers before they all like got hit with all the injury bugs and stuff. So it was one to the 49ers, 2 to the Rams, and then 1 to Buffalo.
And I think I might have leaned towards, if I'm going to guess, I also had Buffalo, and I think I had one Cardinals, one Rams. And I actually thought we'd sweep the Niners, I think, because of the fact we're a tough matchup for them. And I thought their injury Super Bowl hangover thing would kind of come into effect a little bit from my standpoint. But you were asking Dmac that, not me. So I just.
Yep.
Randall, thank you for the $10 donation, my guy. I've got to get you again, Randall. You got to send me your address too, because I can get you a custom mug. I think you're my top donator off the board here, and I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that.
Definitely got to send you some merch, Randall.
Yeah, I got to get you some. So hit me up with your address over on Facebook, Randall, when you get a chance. D-Boy, do the 49ers take a big L by taking D-Boy Samuel into the draft right before DK? Well, here, okay, now Dmac's probably going to say yes on this. I think, well, I'm not going to guess for you. I'm not saying no, because here's the thing. I don't know if DK fits as well into what the Niners had at that point with Garoppolo and understanding that he had limitations on hitting that outside guy. You know, if you're not able to utilize the deep ball to DK, you're reducing some of his value out on the football field. He can run all the routes, but whereas Debo Samuel can do everything they want to do in that offense, from the fly sweep game to the bubble screen game to the manufacturing of yards just through their various ways that they do it, you know, scheming up stuff offensively. What do you think?
D-Boy, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't think DK would transition to the NFL nicely as he is. I thought his hands were suspect. Like I said, he had everything else off the charts as far as speed, you know, physicality, whatever. I thought he was gonna be very inconsistent when it came to catching the football in the NFL. I was wrong.
You were pretty up on him. You're kind of underselling yourself.
No, I was high. I was high on him, but I really thought the only weak point that I thought DK had in his game was drop balls and like inconsistent catches. So like that was the only knock that I really had on DK. Other than that, I was really excited for DK. And as a wide receiver, if you've got inconsistent hands, that is, to me, is like the cardinal sin. Like that's your job. Like, you know what I mean? So I was kind of torn between the two. But to answer your question, I think the whole league took an L on DK, not just the 49ers. I mean, I don't care what your scheme is. This is the best, clearly. I mean, in my opinion, so far, he's clearly the best wide receiver in this draft. So, you know, not only did the 49ers miss on this one, I think the whole league missed on DK.
And there's so many more bigger misses too. As far as N'Keal Harry looks like nothing for the Patriots. He's the first guy off the board that year. Arcega-Whiteside out of Stanford for the Eagles. I mean, just nothing there either. And when they had last year, they desperately needed wide receiver help, and he wasn't able to do anything for them on the football field. So to Dmac's point, there's a lot of guys hurting on that one. There's a lot of licking the wounds. Ted Brogan, another $5 donation. We got $15 coming in off the top for Ted today on the deal with his election erections. Thank you so much, Ted, for the $5 donation. I salute you, sir.
And Ted says, I like the fact that nobody gave credit to Kyler Murray for winning the game for Arizona against Seattle. Blame the D all day, but Murray was the one that was making plays. Agreed very much so. And I thought throughout the game, Murray made plays. When he had opportunities to get into the Seattle defense, he took them. When he had to run with his legs, he ran. He's a problem at the quarterback position. And he's, to me, the one quarterback in this division that's a problem. Goff's not a problem. Garoppolo is not a problem. Maybe the backup for the Niners is a problem. but seriously, at the end of the day, Murray is a legit talent in this league. He's a different player from Russell Wilson, even though he's drafted number one overall because of a guy like Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson's success. They're much different players, but he's going to be hard to play for the next few years, in my opinion. He's not going anywhere. He's not going away. And I don't have the same reservations with him I have with Lamar Jackson, where I think he's just going to use the scrambling, get the hell beat out of him in a few years, and go that Cam Newton route. By the time he's in his late 20s, be done. I don't think he's going to go that route either. I think we've got a guy that could be a long-term problem. Don't you, D, when it comes to Kyler? Long-term? For sure.
Jose Rodriguez has got 34-26 Hawks. Love it. Love it. Love the confidence, Jose.
I love it.
Very Hairy Larry. How you doing, Very Hairy Larry? What is up? Fat Daddy Stacks, love DK, but would love for Lockett to get his due props as well. The guy is totally going to be a star. It just would be cool if Lockett could have his time in the respect column. True. I think the thing with Lockett is he's got to have the 1,000-yard season, right? He's got to have multiple 1,000-yard seasons before you get recognized as a wide receiver. That's just the standard. And he had the years where he had the perfect completion, the perfect quarterback rating with Russell, and he'd be at like 989 yards or something. So he's been very close. He might have even gotten through 1 year, but he's got to put that together. That's going to be the key for Lockett to get that just respect. And I think right now, Dmac, where they're both on pace for Both of them are paced for 14, 15 touchdowns this year. So if Lockett gets into that 1,000-yard mark with 14, 15 touchdowns, just like it did with Doug Baldwin when he had that 1 year to do it, and it opened everybody's eyes to Doug, it'll do the same thing with Lockett.
He was definitely introduced to the league after that 1 year. Yeah.
That's right. DK took a screen 40 yards to the house in OT in Arizona. Would have been the game winner if Moore didn't hold. It's true. Was a legit hold, though. That part's true. What's your score prediction, Dmac, on this game? Matthias asks.
Score prediction. I'll say 30-27.
I'm going to go 31-27. Man, I was right. You
31.
Right, I was going
31, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's easier to, because the way the numbers work, it's easier to get to the 31. But yeah, we'll see. That's mine. I got us winning by that. I think Jamal coming back will be that 3-point difference, 4-point difference in this game. Anthony Bain, is Alex Collins playing? Yes, he is playing, and he will be starting. Expect him to be starting. DJ Dallas to play the third down running back role this week. Do you think Shervin's will be a Pro Bowler this year, Dmac, where he's on pace? Is he going to have enough catches and yards?
I think so.
It's going to be hard in that NFC. Somebody was mentioning earlier, Diop, DK could be the 2 All-Pros. They're going Pro Bowl. Mike Evans going Pro Bowl. Michael Thomas now hasn't been playing, so that's one guy off the spectrum there that you have to deal with. But it'll be close. He's got a chance, but I think it's very close, Shervin. I'd say if it was today, the season ended today, probably not, because he wouldn't have enough catches or yards. But still has a chance. Fat Daddy Stacks, the $10 donation. Thank you, Fat Daddy Stacks. You guys are so nice with the donations. He says, love you guys. Thanks to the channel. Well, thank you, my friend. And please, everybody in the chat, please do slam that like button if you're in the chat and you haven't hit it already. It is much appreciated and helps us show up on the algorithm. Jose Rodriguez says, wish I could give you a super chat. Well, no worries, Jose. Your presence is my mod, running the show, being my usher, my bouncer. Mm-hmm. My guy, when I got 86 people, you're doing plenty well for me, my guy. Keep the chat smooth, lean, and mean. Cordell Carter says, my God, I was waiting. I love Hawks Nest. I missed this all week. Oh, I love you, man. Thank you for jumping in. And we'll be trying to get more of these little shows in sprinkled throughout during the week as we can, and time opens up for us. So expect more of this kind of stuff as we can. Cordell also says 14-2, baby. Let's beat the Bills and continue the road to the 1 seed. Can't get complacent and lose games, period. That's my prediction, was 14-2. That's where I landed on. So, I thought that this stretch of 5 games, which we're on the third game of, I thought we'd go 3-2. We're 1-1 right now. So all we got to go is 3-2, and then I think we can go 6-0 on the back end of the schedule. Very feasible to do that, I think. Very feasible.
Fat Daddy says, Pete Carroll said Alex will be ready to go, but DJ will be getting a chance to play more.
Yeah, I think they'll like more with what they have in Alex between the tackles, and that will have him starting. Just my opinion, unless they go to spread formations, shotgun stuff right off the jump. They just try to jump on top of the Buffalo Bills in that aspect. Outside of that, if they go to some of their more traditional stuff that they do early game, which is under center, I think you're going to see Alex Collins back there. That's my opinion. That's my bold prediction for the week for you guys, no matter what Carroll said on that.
Anthony, we ain't beating Tampa with AB 1 seed or not.
Well, it's possible. They're a tough team. I mean, that's a tough team. That I've always pointed to. It's the two-sided coin. It's the two-headed monster here, where you have a guy like Jameis Winston, who I don't think is a great quarterback, but gets you 35 touchdowns out of that offense last year. They run the ball all right. Then you look at the defensive side, where you really get excited, the front seven. And you and I, who, again, you guys got to get us props on this. We pointed to Antoine Winfield Jr. being one of our favorite players in the whole draft last year, a guy picked, I think, at the end of the first round. And he is absolutely balling out for them over there. He's helping to solidify that secondary, just like we thought. But they've got that defense in that front seven. I think they're going to get it. If we play them in a playoff game and they've got all those guys on the edges and Sue and the linebackers where they are, I think we could have some issues. I do think we'll give their corners problems. That Jamel Dean was the guy that DK and Tyler tore up last year in the game that we played against them. He's going to still be out there playing from on that side. I think we can still go after them, and they love to blitz and pull guys out on islands like that. So it'll be a fun game.
I don't know. New York gave him a run for their money. I mean, I know the addition of AB, but sometimes too much talent is kind of detrimental as well. So they might have too many weapons. They might, and who knows how AB will, be in that locker room, if he's going to be disgruntled, if he's not getting the ball thrown to him, if he's going to mess up the flow and the rhythm of that offense. So we don't know. It's a lot to be kind of seen with that type of factor and that type of presence in their locker room and also on the field. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think we can't guarantee anything for them yet. We have to get a little more. We got to watch them a little more. And remember, again, too, the other thing I'll point to this, those older quarterbacks, I've mentioned this a few times. You have to be 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. Yeah, your arm looks great out of the first 8 weeks of the season. Then the elements kick in. Then the arm gets a little tired after all those throws, all the practice throws, all the throws in the game. Sometimes you lose a little few RPMs on that football. Sometimes the ball doesn't come out as hot. And I'll tell you already, there's been a few times this season already with Brady, I've seen on some of those out routes where it's like, does he have as much juice as he used to have on those throws? Seems like he's having to throw them a little bit earlier before the receiver gets in his break, a little earlier. And I don't know. That's going to be a question. That's what it is. It's a question. It's not a certainty right now. Randall Daniel says, who's our nickel? This is a great cornerback question for you, Dmac. Who's going to be the nickel when he comes back healthy? Because Ugo's been knocked out a little bit with a little bit of health stuff, nothing major. You like DJ Reed or you like Ugo?
I actually like Reed. Reed looked really comfortable out there, and he was actually flying around making plays. I actually like Reed in this position. I think once Ugo comes back, he's definitely gonna, take his spot back. But I actually like Reed over Ugo, but I believe Ugo will get his spot back.
And I'm an Ugo guy, so I'm an Ugo believer. Mm-hmm. And I like Reed. I like having the depth. That's the thing I do like. Again, I talked earlier about reinforcing through the ranks, and so that if we have an injury situation, we have people that aren't just going to be a cliff drop from the player that we had in there prior to the injury. Now you got two guys at the slot position. We lost Marquise Blair at the start of the season to season injury. That was our starting slot corner. So now having those reinforcements, very, very, very good thing to have. So
Ugo's he's got better feet. He's a better cover corner, but Reed's got better hands. He's like more of that, turnover, take the ball away, playmaker. And like Ugo's Ugo's just going to attach to you and just suffocate you and not let you go. So I mean, it's all about what you look for in a DB, which I like turnovers. Even if you make a couple mistakes, I like, getting that turnover and turning that momentum.
To me, Ugo's just that slot Seahawks cornerback.
Yeah, just solid.
Just that. Yeah, he's just what they like to have over there. Randall says, I probably forget how special Adams looked those first games. We're getting the centerpiece of our offense off season back. Add in Dunlap, who's instantly our best pass rusher. Sprinkle some Rasheem and go Hawks. That's the formula, man. That's the formula right there. It is. And Rasheem could come out we could see Rasheem come out and kind of ball out. Let's not forget what this guy first season, 20-year-old kid coming out of college, young guy, wasn't ready for the NFL, should have gone back to the draft, probably would have been a top 15 pick if he went back to the draft, was the consensus. Stayed with us for a year. Last year kind of came out, 4 sacks, led the team, looked good in flashes, but was still coming along. Maybe we see him take that next big step here now in his third year as he's only 23 years old, right? Still a very young player in this league. So
Space says, what snacks is favorite snack? What snack's favorite snack?
The answer is yes.
his favorite snack is more of whatever.
All of them.
All the above.
All of the above, I think, Fat Daddy Stock says, think the NFL used this time to test a 2-week preseason. Probably it's a good time to go to it. It'd make a lot of sense for them, especially if they keep trying to put a back end game on the end of the year. They've been wanting to try to add another game to the season for the last 6-7 years, it seems like. So that would be the pathway to potentially do that. What do you think, Dmac? You think that would be the way they do it? Go 2 preseason, add an extra reg?
I hope they do.
You don't want another regular season? You want more NFL?
I mean, I like the preseason, man. It gives guys an opportunity. You got to understand, these guys that are not drafted, these guys that are at the bottom of the draft, man, it gives these guys opportunities to, provide for them, for their family. So like, that's why two preseason games is enough for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think certainly from an evaluation standpoint, when you're having a whole training camp, off-season camps, you shouldn't need more than that at that point.
As a fan, I can understand why you want to cut them out, but as a fellow guy that knows players in the NFL, and also like I got family members that's in the NFL right now, so like they just give guys opportunities to provide for their families. Good guys.
We got to give props to Dmac's cousin, guys. Dmac is a great time to talk about. So Dmac's cousin is going to be starting left guard this week for the Bears.
Yep.
So literally his
Arlington
yeah, give him a name. What?
So Arlington Hambright. Arlington
Hambright, the left
Arlington.
starting left guard. So
number 71. Number 71. We got our eyes on him.
We got our eyes on him. So that 6th, 7th round pick, I think, in this last draft by the Bears. He's been in there just working his tail off here for the Bears, right? Now he's going to start this week. He gets Jeffrey Simmons for the Titans, freaking monster down there. And I was just talking about that spinner role that Clowney works in. He's going to have Clowney up over his face a couple times in this game, this poor rookie. Going to just have his hands full. But it'd be awesome if he balls out.
I mean, and like, so my cousin, like I said, I remember, like, so his nickname is Papa. He was a really small kid and he grew up to be just a monster. Like he's a beast of a guy now. And his strong suit, I think, is his feet. He's like a small, like athletic kind of guard, tackle. And he's just like, he's got good feet. That's why he's in the NFL. He's a big boy, but he's not like just some big, like gigantic guy, but his feet is just like elite. I think his footwork is why he's in the league. And like I said, I'm happy to see him on the field. I'm proud of him. And like I said, I'll be watching him this Sunday.
Keep an eye out on the left guard for the Bears. Let's see if Dmac's cousin can show out this week. But that's so cool. Daddy Dennis says Josh Allen could be elite if he had accuracy, but man, is his accuracy bad, especially deep. That's on point. And I don't know, with accuracy in quarterbacks, it doesn't tend to get better. Like Lamar Jackson, accuracy was an issue coming out. Still is kind of a question mark situation for him a little bit. Aren't you the same way with the quarterbacks, Dmac, where it's just like, look, if they've got it or they don't on the accuracy game, and it's hard for it to, it's a little bit like what you're talking about with receivers and catching the ball or having bad hands. It's you have it or you don't. And if you don't, it's kind of a prerequisite of the position. But he is, Daddy, throwing at 67%. I mean, the fact that he's got up there, that's surprising to me. I didn't think at his 50% mark coming out of college, where in college, everything's open space. It's built to be, guys throw for 75, 80% sometimes because there's so much bubble screen game implemented in. You should not be at 50% by any stretch of the imagination. So I thought he'd struggle to get to 60, much less be up near pushing down 70%. It'll be interesting to see how that holds up in this game, though. If we can see that being the flaw for the Bills here, where that he misses a couple throws where he gets Josh Brown breaking deep, wide open by 3 yards, and he overthrows him by 10, or some weird thing like that. Could be.
Then you got to understand, like I said, that weather plays a part. The weather has changed. He looked really good when it was hot. Now it's, that weather's changing and it's a whole different story out there. So
we'll see. It'll be one of the funner items to kind of keep track of this game is where Allen's at. Power of Myth, how you doing? Carl Nerney, thank you for the $5 donation, my guy. I appreciate it. Salute you. He says he's got the Seahawks going 27-10 against the Bills, and he says, go Hawks. Well, I love it, Carl. I feel real good if it's a nice, easy game like that. If I can put the hard medicine on the shelf this week. I can just, not have to swear and just stomp my feet and what are they doing? But I love it if they can get that, man. 27-10 sounds real nice. Real nice. Power of Myth, how can we improve our prevent defense? It's the opposite of prevent. Dmac, this is something, let's go to some of your on-field knowledge with this question. You're up by 20 points back in college. It's the fourth quarter. What if you're the defensive coordinator over there? Are you going to slide into your soft zones and say, look, I just need to bleed the clock. I got the 20-point lead, do the math, the numbers run down. It'll play out this way. Or do you have a specific defensive type you'd slide to? Maybe not a cover 2, maybe a cover 3, maybe more just, like nickel coverage atop, where you just basically cloud cover it over the top and have them sliding back and forth like an arm, protecting various where you want to hit.
That's a really great question from Power of Myth. It's a very complex question. So I think a lot of it has to do with also what the offense is doing. So as a defense, you can't really say like, hey, I'm going to sit in this prevent or I'm going to do this in this type of scenario until you see what the offense lines up in. So a lot of it is dictated by the offense, and that's what the name of this game is. The offense, if you can imagine watching a play in front of you, you're the audience, that's the defense. We have to kind of like sit and wait until the props are all laid out before we can give our response to the play that we're watching in front of us. So as the offense is coming out in their formations, that dictates what we can do as a defense. So a lot of times if you've got like one wide receiver and then you've got like a trips to the right, there's like combo coverages that you can play. There's all types of different things that you can play. But if you're going 2x2, or if you're going empty backfield, it all just depends on what you're seeing from an offensive standpoint and what you can do. But in theory, prevent defense is okay in my estimation. I don't have any problem with going and prevent when you're up 10 points and the clock is winding down and you just want to like bend but don't break. And then, like I said, play everything in front of you and then come up and make the play. I have no problem or no issue with that.
You just think they need to play it better then? Because it's been one of the things that this year that we've seen. They get up by 10, 14 points. They slide into that soft zone, and then there's nothing they don't seem to counter off. I like your zone. I like the combination play. Like Dunbar, he plays man on the other side. They flip the other guy to having him play zone. And then they swap out Jamal and Diggs at times on who's the cover three guy high as the single high safety. Right. Doing more of those type of things.
More
in that
combo
moment to me.
Coverages, yeah.
Yeah, because to me, watching the soft zone with it seems like it puts the players going back on their heels a little bit. So even if they're in the right place to theoretically make the play, because they're not playing with that aggressiveness in their heart, it's not allowing them to do what the coaches have feasibly put them in the position to do at that point, which is to prevent the big play. We're watching them give up big plays as they're being supposed to.
I see what you mean. It's kind of counterproductive on, in theory, you preventing the big play, but actually they're getting the big play every drive. Yeah, exactly. But prevent, I think, is not preventing the yardage. Prevent means I'm going to prevent you from scoring the touchdown, and so we're going to just lock up as you get. If you make the completion, you get to the red zone, okay, then we're going to lock up and play our traditional defense. So prevent is not, to me, in theory, supposed to like stop all the big yardage plays up into the red zone. I think it's just preventing the touchdown. My thing with it is
it's like specifically the posts or the routes where they go 17 yards down the field, sit down between the two zone defenders.
Right. And run out of bounds.
And you're going, dude, you guys couldn't have pinched that zone there. You're already that deep down the field. Like, why are you guys just sitting in this little island spot that has a 3-yard circular radius around you? And that's it at that point. And that's where it drives me nuts, where I want the awareness to be more, he's,
right. I get that you're preventing the touchdown, but also there's nobody in your zone. Come up and make a play. Don't kill grass. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. That's when I start. It's like it gets foul. Randall says we haven't run trick play yet. Yeah, we need to run a trick play at some point. Either flea flicker, reverse to a wide receiver who hits Russ on the wheel route, or a little bit of the Philly special. So Randall's predicting a trick play this week. We got to put it down. That's down on the prediction front. Randall McDaniel has said a trick play. He's not said that at once in any of our chat this year so far. So we'll see.
Let's acknowledge our two donos as we wrap this show up really quick. We got Anthony Bain with the $10 dono.
Anthony, thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Anthony. He says the Vikings didn't step on the Packers. Dalvin Cook straight up blew up that defense. Also, Carson won't be able to do the same. Won't be the same foot sprains linger like Cam Newton last year, and his foot sprain ended his year.
Yeah. So Cook is obviously one of the best backs in the league right now, where he's playing, if not the best running back in the league. That's got to be acknowledged, Anthony, and that's a solid point. The part of it, though, as well, is that the Vikings have built that offensive line to maul. It's what they did against us as well, didn't they? They're very good about getting guys blown off the wall. They're giving Dalvin Cook holes, in addition to Dalvin Cook being a very dynamic running back. It's those two things working together. So when you have, as we saw last year, the Packers go up against a mauling, run-heavy team, what happened to them in the 49ers game? Twice, right? Last year? Niners didn't have enough soldiers on deck this last week to do the same kind of thing to them.
Right.
But essentially the Vikings took the play sheet that the Packers used, that the 49ers used against the Packers, and implemented it, implemented it well. So that's where, to me, it's not necessarily Dalvin Cook there. It's their commitment to run the football, their true commitment to move off of Cousins and having him throw for 4,500 yards a year, and going back into the running game being the more favored favored deal. All right, let's get to and Dmac. I can close it out if you've got to slip out, but yeah, let's get I'm gonna try to get a couple of people here at least a little bit. Thank you for the $1.99, the $2 donation from D-Boy. Appreciate it, my guy.
And actually, what I'll do is I'll step away if you want to just kind of give the last remarks. I'll keep my side on. So
yeah, just keep your side on, and I'll just kind of roll along here. Dmac's got to run out, but I'll hold on here with you folks. We'll do a little bit more on these because I know I've got a couple questions here. I want to
appreciate everybody showing up and showing out for the 12s. This is Dmac. If you hadn't subscribed, subscribe, like everything. Appreciate you.
Dmac talks Seahawks in the description section. So please look to his channel as well. He's got a new one. He's up and running. Thanks, Dmac. Appreciate you. All right. So we'll go through some more of these questions really quick. Fat Daddy Stacks. Appreciate you, guy. You have a good one. It says, I agree with DJ in college highlight reels, but can now see, I can't hear you. He's off. Have a good one, Dmac. Yeah, DJ did show out yesterday or last week, Fat Daddy Stack. So he's got a chance to still show something out. There's definitely, there's a little bit there to show. He's not just a guy that we're putting out. He's not like a Jamar Taylor last year, a guy that you're just putting out in there. Randall McDaniel, speaking of specialized players, would Devin Hester be more successful on offense in today's NFL? Coaches getting guys in space. They're innovative. I know it's off topic, but it's a debate with a friend. A bit. I feel like Devin Hester, some of the stuff the game was going to the bubble screen stuff and getting the ball in the player's hands a little bit right as he was nearing the end of his prime. But you would have to think that there would be coaches more apt to do that because it's not like the first few years of his career, Randall, I think they were still trying to play him at cornerback. So if they make that transition quicker to getting him on the offensive side of the ball, not having him play the cornerback and just embrace him in that role right off the jump, he probably is able to get into that role quicker and then, i.e., put more production out on the football field because of it. Evergreen says, I thought BJ Finney was the worst acquisition this offseason. Greg Olson has taken the title after Finney got us Dunlap. P.S. I remember you saying Posick would win the job back in June. Evergreen, thank you for giving me props. I always appreciate it when people remember my predictions coming true. And that was one of my predictions this offseason was that Ethan Posick would beat out Finney. I didn't hate Finney as a player, but I just knew that he wasn't going to be a fit in the same way that Posick would be. Posick's a talented center. Finney's more of the overachiever type. Posick's a guy who can help you in the running game. Finney's more of a guy you want in pass protection. This is part of the reason why the Bengals picked him up is the Bengals look like they want to throw the ball 65 times a football game at times. So he's going to help him out in that respect. There's some value to be had. They play against the Steelers every year. They were aware of Finney as a player and what he could do. They saw value in it. You offload salary that wasn't going to work for you. And you've got a guy in Justin Britt who I'm sure they can sign off the street at any point in time to back up. So I thought it was a fantastic trade. I agree with you, Evergreen. I didn't like the deal at the time. I really didn't like any of the offensive line signings. Brandon Shell has been a pleasant surprise for me. But just the way they spent that $50 million this offseason was a big-time head-scratcher. You really struggle to understand in retrospect what was the plan and how it was not necessarily just being reactive to the situation of the free agent market. I can't ever really quite understand what was going on with that whole situation. Jose Rodriguez says Collins is an idiot. Are you talking about Alex Collins, Jose? Fat Daddy Sex says, I think getting Disley through a season is probably a big thing on my mind of the staff. I agree, Fat Daddy Stacks. I think that they're trying to protect Disley a little bit, make sure that he's okay, make sure that they don't put too much wear and tear off those tires early on so that they can have him when they need him. And certainly other aspects of the football game, being the receivers on the outside, are going really well. Even David Moore, who right now is carrying that same kind of perfect quarterback rating that we saw with Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson a couple of years ago that everybody marveled at. David Moore is showing the exact same type of production between him and Russell Wilson this year so far. So they've got a lot that they've got to work with on the outside. They don't need the tight ends maybe as much, but boy, there's some times with the way that the defenses play against, especially when they drop into those deep zones and protect against the deep ball, where you really wonder about maybe attacking with more of a tight end underneath, just sitting underneath on a 9-10 yard route and letting Russell just whip it into him there. Randall McDaniel says, who would you rather have, Vic Beasley, Tack, or Clay Matthews? Money aside, I would take Clay Matthews, and it's pretty easy for me on that selection, Randall. Questions on Beasley's love and effort as far as the game. Questions with Tack as far as kind of some of the effort stuff, but then the injury aspect as well with Clay. He's a gamer. He's going to be out on the football field. He knows how to get to the quarterback. I'm riding with that one. What's up, Flag Sabbath? How you doing? Daddy Dennis says DJ Dallas averaged 5.8 yards a carry in college. His most popular highlight reel starts with him running over dudes. It's a different game, Daddy, on the NFL level, I would argue. It's a lot different game on a guy like that doing that on the college level versus the NFL level. And 5.8 yards a carry is a good yard per carry average. But just when you watch when I'm watching college film, I'm not watching to see how many yards the guy's getting. I'm watching his vision. I'm watching his wiggle. I'm watching his ability to drag guys. And a highlight moment of running over a particular guy doesn't necessarily make that who that player is. That's why when I go and watch the college tape, Daddy Dennis, and I always do a lot of preparation before the draft. We do 3 days of streaming. Is that when I look, I'm looking at the game film. Show me the cut-ups of play after play after play after play after play. What am I seeing from the guy? Because you can fall in love with highlights. And the 5.8 yard per carry average is great. But when you watch the play after play, when you watch a couple of games of him through the tape last year, I saw a guy that just couldn't pull tacklers along. Wasn't really going to fall forward. When you got your hands on him, he was going to come to a dead stop. Not a lot of extra moves to his game. Not a lot of jukes or spins. Not even really a stiff arm to that degree. Soft hands, can pass protect. There's some good aspects to his game. But as an everyday on back of the future, guy to take over for Carson, I just don't see it. Anthony Baines says Anthony Baines a Vic man for sure. So Randall's looking at the Beasley. Benji, what's up? Hey, Mr. Benji Heyman. He says Hollister's a big man. Love to see him out there. He's kind of like about a 6'3" guy, I think. 6'2", 6'3". He's kind of he's the Joker tight end. So they're a little bit of an undersized tight end versus the other guys. But they sure tried to feature him a bunch to get him on the trade market. They were trying to get some value back for him, and they were the last couple of games you could see them featuring Hollister here and there. Randall says talking about Dallas and his moves or lack thereof. The first time he got in this year, we raved about his jump step ability. First career start, dude scored 2 touchdowns and caught 6 passes. Yeah, and he's got some great aspects to his game, Randall. So I don't want to make it seem like just because I've got certain detriments to his game that I'm down on him as a player, which I'm not. I'm still very much up on him as a player. I'm just slotting him into a role where I think he's going to be at his best to flourish. And I'm thinking conversely that we're going to be able to do better from a talent standpoint for that back of the future, whoever that guy may be. Benji says, do you think that Dallas deserves second string over Hyde and Homer? No, I'm not there. I'm not. No, I think those 2 guys are better running backs than him right now. Daddy Dennis, Bengals love Finney too. They were excited to get him. And it's great for us because he wasn't going to ever fit for us. So we got some of that salary offloaded and we were able to get some value back. The whole trade is a marvelous trade from John Schneider's aspect of things, because not only did he flip out an asset that was a depressed asset from his standpoint that he wasn't going to utilize, he brought a guy in Carlos Dunlap that he was able to get renegotiated on a contract. So I think they moved some of his deal into bonus money, and they moved around a little bit of money and made him fit under the cap appropriately. So just a fantastic deal from Schneider's standpoint. There's nothing you can pull apart on that particular deal. And you've got potential of Dunlap being here not just this year, but moving into next year as well. I believe he's already under contract for next year in addition. Randall McDaniel, Cam Newton is my player comp for Allen. Not saying he's got that top end, just size, speed, mobility, also accuracy. Yeah, I think he might have a little more arm than Cam downfield, and he might be a little more accurate than Cam on the deep ball. But you're right, Cam's probably a better runner to a small degree in what he could do with especially the read option game. I don't know if Allen is as deadly in that respect, but it's a good comp. It's a good comp. I think it's appropriate. Shervin's, I think the Rams match up better against us, but I don't think they can win the division. I think that's pretty on point, man. I think the Rams are a tough matchup for us. I do think that tough matchup is going to be tested this particular year because on both sides of the ball, that formula that we had used year in and year out against this McVay-led Rams team has now changed. We're not going to be as run-centric. We're now going to be pass-heavy. And on the defensive side of the ball, we're not going to be as read and react soft zone as we're going to be blitz-heavy. Kind of interesting to see how that flipping of the script against the Rams this year will work out. B Uncharted says the back end of the schedule is so smooth for Seattle if they can go 2-3 in these next few games. That's my whole thing with the B Charted. I slotted the back end of our schedule into 2 parts. The first part would be this current 5-game stretch we're in, which we're currently 1-1 in. And then you've got the back 6 games at the end of the season. So in this game of 5 games, this stretch of 5 games, I thought we needed to play about 3-2. I thought it was feasible we could go 3-2 through this 5-game stretch. And if we did that, then we could go 6-0 on the back end of the schedule, and that elevates you into the 14 and 2 range at that point, and that gets you the first round bye and home field advantage through the playoffs. So that's the lens I've been looking through on it. Shervin's Cards have a better shot at the division. Maybe a lot's going to depend on that game back in Seattle, won't it? A lot's going to be riding on that game. Daddy Dennis, Mama Blue named the 12th man of the year by the Seahawks. That's lovely. I know actually her son, who's a cook, who I know pretty well. I've been friends with him for a long time, but that's good to hear. I got to check in with him and ask him about that. Randall McDaniel, is Alex Collins going to be active? Homer kind of looks like Justin Fargas minus the explosion part. That's probably pretty apt. That's a very vague comparison, but yet an apt one. So I'll give you that, Randall. Yeah, I think Alex Collins is going to be active. I think Alex Collins is going to be starting on early downs, especially for Seattle. Dallas will slide back, or Homer will slide back into that third down role. They'll probably mix all the backs in, and I'll give them all some touches, but I think he's probably going to end up with more. If I was a gambling man, I'd say Collins has more carries than any other running backs. Anthony, the Rams are the biggest threat to us. Ramsey checks DK extremely well because he's very physical, and not to forget AD mauls our O-line. Yeah, Aaron Donald mauls our O-line. Yeah, I think both of those reasons you mentioned are true. We'll see on DK. DK had an okay game against Ramsey in the first matchup when Ramsey was traded after the deadline last year. Ramsey wasn't there in the first game. So we'll see how well he matches up as we go forward. And I think Ramsey's dealing with a little bit of an injury at the moment. But the Rams are going to be a tough game. And that is a game I could see us splitting, that, or even as Dmac said, maybe even the Rams sneaking out both of those 2 wins. I think they're a tough team. I think the people that sleep on the Rams are kind of just, I can understand it, but some of it has to do with the fact it's not their talent or how good they are. There's just been some weeks to me that they just haven't shown up. They've sort of been sleepwalking. Last week, that 10 a.m. game against the Dolphins, for instance, they just kind of were out of it, just weren't ready to play and show up and play. But when they're ready to play, when they come out on the football field, and I damn well better believe that they're going to be doing that against us, they're a tough matchup. Jose says, Bungles are cheap like a Kardashian. They are cheap. They'd be like that old joke of like having a coin-operated, pop soda machine in the locker room, like that kind of cheap. Then they're known for it. I don't get it myself. If you're going to own an NFL franchise, it shouldn't be where you're like trying to profit off that franchise every year to survive. It should be, I've made my money. This is my pet project thing. This is my love sort of thing, my thing that I have a lot of passion for. I don't like those owners that do the whole, I'll make my money now and I'll make my money when I sell the team. B Uncharted says, without an elite O-line and run game, McVay is very overrated as a play caller. He's the Brad Stevens of the NFL. Could be. Uncharted, I like a lot of what they did to go to now. I believe they're in the, like they used to be, I think it was 12 personnel. Now they're 11 personnel more. What he's done is a transition from going to the 3 wide receiver sets to now more of the 2 tight end sets. And then a lot of the play action game that he's transitioned to in Jared Goff as teams countered his go-to, because they had that go-to formation back in their Super Bowl year where they would slide that receiver back across the motion. Seattle's implemented a lot of that with Tyler Lockett. And you could never be certain if it was going to be a running back on that play and the receiver is going to come back and block the edge defender coming down, or if he was just going to slide on through and go out into a route. And it made them very hard to read. The Patriots came in with those basically 6-man fronts where they'd put a safety and a linebacker on either side of the line, and then every team copied this off of the Super Bowl against the Rams, and then McVay adjusted. So he has some intelligence to make that very keen adjustment to get that offense back on point and be at least somewhat effective. And he's done that without the offensive line being as good as it was in the Super Bowl year, without having a running back like Todd Gurley back there. They still have some very good receivers, but let's face it. I mean, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Everett and Higbee, they're not world beaters out there. They're just good receivers. So I still think I'm still on board with thinking that I'm not going to call him a kid genius or something like that, but I still think McVay, along with Shanahan, are 2 of the better play callers in the league, in my opinion. Michael Simon says, if we lose this weekend and Arizona wins, we are second in the division, right? I do believe that would be true. I think that's correct. Benji says, how do you guys feel about going after Dante Fowler? I think he would cost too much money. We wouldn't be able to fit him in under the cap right now. So we've kind of made our bed with where we are on the salary cap, bringing in Snacks, bringing in Carlos Dunlap. There's not a lot of other moves to make unless they try to find a way to like sign Lockett to a contract extension and convert his base salary this year into signing bonus and then create a couple million that way. But even that I don't think would be enough to fit him under. So I don't think it's a possibility at this point. Michael says, how many games do you give AB before he goes off the rails? I think he's going to be a good soldier, Michael. Those guys get up to their last chance. They get onto that final spot where if they do one thing out of line, and it's strange how many of the times those guys will then just toe that line right on spot. Take a guy like Pac-Man Jones for years who was in and out. Then he got to his last, if you mess up one more time, you're out of this league, and he managed to toe the line for a few years to end out his career. I would think that AB might do something very similar as he's trying to angle for an off-season deal. And doing that on the back end of these games would be a way to do that, to get that going. So I think he's going to toe the line, man. I really do. Be Uncharted, where do you see Jim Harbaugh landing in the NFL, assuming he parts ways with Michigan since his contract is set to expire? I could see him in Atlanta. I don't know that there's going to be as many people jumping for Harbaugh's services as I might have thought even at the start of the year. Looking and hearing about some of the scuttlebutt out there regarding Harbaugh and his time in Michigan, though he's done a decent job with them, and you can't really necessarily hold him to his feet to the fire for not being able to beat Ohio State or struggling with Michigan State, but then beating everybody else. But I don't know if his star is as bright as a head coach in the NFL as it once was. And when you look at the Atlanta in that job, it's possible they could look at him with it, but I'm not going to make as big a guess right now that Harbaugh's coaching next season. He might just take a year off from coaching and sit back and wait for a different situation to kind of come up. Oddly, there's a part of me that could see the Jets doing something with it, where the Jets are going to look to make a big splash hire and find a name, get beyond the Todd Bowles and Gases of the world. So they might look at a guy like this and throw a bunch of money at him. I could see them doing that. So if I was to make a prediction, I guess that'd be the prediction I'd go into. But I really lean back to thinking maybe he just takes a year off from coaching. Michael says, who takes the 53rd man on the Seahawks roster? I don't know on that one. They come right up to game time on that decision. So I don't know. Hard to say on that one. Would Rasheem Green be counted? Because Carlos Dunlap takes DeMontre Moore's roster spot. So wouldn't Rasheem Green be the 53rd guy at that point? Randall says, almost every year we hear the cliche clicking at the right time. We could be 11-1 and then hit our stride. Hawks winning the effing Lombardi. Take it to the bank. I love it, Randall. Love your enthusiasm, man. And that's it. That's what you want to be going. People make a lot of assessments of teams throughout the year, and they don't understand that the league really does play out like a marathon at times. It seems like a small season because there's only 16 games, but you almost have these 4-game sets that things operate out of, and you have to view things through those lenses. And if you're in that back end 4 games and you're rolling and you got your team going, it's sometimes at the right time. We've seen those teams that they catch fire at the right time and they become unstoppable. And it's better to get to your best football by the end of the year than it is to start out at your best football at the beginning of the year. And we've seen certain teams that have that problem year in, year out, where they play their best out the gate and then they just kind of fade. I think there's a bit of coaching skill to getting your team not only prepped, but managing them throughout the season to get them into a state to be able to play at their best football at the end of the season, especially now with the current CBA and the lack of training and your lack of ability to control the players like you once did. Randall Y2KH says, really like the Dunlap interview. I think he can add a little juice. I do think Hope can shed a little rust off the tires. Yeah, Carlos should be our best pass rusher right out the gate, I would imagine. The bar's been set a little bit low as far as our pass rush ability goes, but he's a guy who I think still can generate some kind of pass rush here and there, certainly. And he's big, he's athletic still for his age. He's got a ton of length. He's got a lot of tools in his kit that he can utilize to get that pressure. And I love the way that he collapses a pocket, which is going to speed quarterbacks' clock up. Even if he doesn't get necessarily the pressure, even if he doesn't get the sack, he's going to be walking a guy back in towards a quarterback, which does mess with the quarterback's head a little bit. I like that a lot. Y2K asked if I have any thoughts on Travis Fulgham, the standout young wide receiver for the Eagles. I like the Eagles receiver situation as they go forward. They took that kid out of TCU in the first round, and Fulgham, they got a pair of really good players going forward. I think he's probably more of a possession guy on the bigger scheme of things. Body control, great route runner, okay hands, but I don't necessarily see as much explosiveness in him to become one of the upper level receivers in the league, but a very good receiver in the league. One of the better possession guys, maybe as his top end. Y2K says, I don't totally agree with you on Green Bay, but I'm saying I'm very high on Lazard. Well, it's just, I think sometimes what happens with that wide receiver position with the Packers Y2K is that they fall in love with their own receivers because they're hoping for their development, because they're doing nothing in free agency to bring a wide receiver in, nor they're going to trade for a top end wide receiver. So that leaves them in the state of trying to fall in love with their own guys, like Marquise Valdes-Scantling, for instance. So maybe Lazard turns out, maybe these self-created receivers from inside do pop. I will give the Packers credit throughout, historically speaking, the last 25 years. They've done as good a job throughout the league of developing their receivers from within rather than having to go out from without. So you go back to your Antonio Freemans and Brookses back in the day and Favre, and it just goes up a line from Greg Jennings and Donald Drivers and Jordy Nelson. So even now to Devontae Adams. So they have done that well. I will give them credit, but I do think there might be a common point this season with the Packers where they stand up and they go, God, we are really missing that other guy on the other side who can take attention away. Because right now teams are just doubling up Devontae and they're forcing Aaron to go somewhere else and there's nowhere else to go. I still come back to feeling like it could end up in this season, that being a case at some point or another in one of these games for the Packers that really matters. Daddy Dennis says, I only say go Hawks to Russell Wilson because I'm a Sonics fan and the Atlanta Hawks suck. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. Randall, Miami Dolphins challenge for AFC in 2 to 3 years. If the Texans pick as top 3, do you think they trade Tua and take Lawrence or Fields if they have the pick? Yeah, I do think so. I think and then this is me guessing, Randall, big guess here, guys. I don't have a lot of stuff to go off of, but if I was to lean in a direction on this Tua deal and why they took Fitzpatrick out, brought Tua in, is because they're going to get a quick look on Tua to make sure it validates what they're seeing on the practice field, which may be that he's not the player they thought when they drafted him, or maybe the injuries have kind of robbed him a little bit of his explosiveness, not the same player, and that they would look at that point to then move him. And then, as you said, take Fields or Lawrence, whoever's, well, it's going to be Fields who would be available for them at that spot at that point. But I certainly see them doing that. I don't think that they're just going to get stuck on him. I had questions with Tua when he was picked. It was a really tough injury. That Bo Jackson hip surgery is a tough one. I know that medical science has come really far, but this is a guy who, for me, wasn't a clean prospect anyway, even beyond that injury situation. I could see it, but I could also see them winning in a couple of years. They're building that team the right way, and I think Flores is a really, really good head coach. So I like where that team's going in their direction. They're going to have a lot of salary cap room to work with. They're going to have a lot of draft capital to work with. There's a lot of different things they can do from a flexibility standpoint in team building. Daddy Dennis says I rely on a ton of experts and highlights with rookies because I don't watch college football. I don't watch as much anymore either. I just don't have the time. What I do, Daddy Dennis, is at the end of the year, a lot of people go through on YouTube and they will cut games up. So you can get a particular player on offense. Let's say you're watching a receiver. You can just get a whole offensive cut up of that receiver. And so if you look for it by YouTube with that, you can get 2 or 3 or 4 games for a given player under your belt really fast and then get a really nice snapshot of that player, as opposed to the highlights, which just show you the best of the best of the best of the best. Y2K, I agree DK is the best. The devil's advocate argument would be Russell is the perfect quarterback for DK. Give him like Brady, he'd still be amazing, but not as amazing. Well, and that's the gist basically of every player in football that's the skill position. Y2K, that's the way it works for all of them. The players are going to be dependent on the player throwing them the football. And unless the player is just so outstandingly amazing, beyond all comprehension, off the charts, awesome, there's going to be players that are going to fall down a peg or two if they're playing with much less competition. If you're a great quarterback who's got John Elway, Andrew Luck type talent, but then you're having the crap hell beat out of you because you have no offensive line, you don't get to really show out that talent. So it's there's a big part of that works into it, but it doesn't take anything away from DK or his freakishness or the monster ability he has or the top end of where his ceiling lies, which, as I've said, is up in outer space at this point. Daddy Dennis says, I stopped going to games after Curtis Williams died. Stopped watching after Sandusky ruling. Fair enough, Daddy Dennis. Anthony Bain, DK or AJ Brown are the best receivers of that draft. Iron sharpens iron. Agree, those guys seem to definitely work off of each other. I'll take DK over. I like AJ. I think AJ's comparisons to a guy like Terrell Owens are apt, and people have tried to put DK in the Terrell Owens mix. I put DK more in the Calvin mix. I know that people, well, Kelvin's more fluid athlete. Yeah, we'll see how it all kind of goes with that. But AJ's a really good player too. Shervin says Lockett had 965 yards in 2018 and over 1,000 yards last year. Okay, I forgot about that. So he's getting there. You got to just do it a couple times with it to get people finally putting in. And he's getting in. You're hearing more and more now of people starting to put him into the realm. But I think if he's only got like 65 catches and 1,000 yards and 14 touchdowns at the end of the year, I think there'll be other receivers with just a little more production down the line that'll get into the Pro Bowl over him. It'd be great to see him, both him and DK. That doesn't mean that he wouldn't have earned it, just that the people will look at his stat line and hold that up over it. Dmac, I think Dmac did still have the Seahawks losing the Bills because he was trying to stick to his original season prediction. So he wasn't doing it for any current data or information he's taking in. He's basing it all on his start of the season. Daddy Dennis got Seahawks 34-9. I love it. Love it. I'd feel so good about that kind of win where I could just sit back at early in the morning, sip my coffee and, feel good. Randall McDaniel, Luke Wilson is the greatest tight end from Canada in Hawks history. That's very specific, Randall. That's very specific. Ever notice he falls down 80% of the time he catches the ball? My wife literally says, effing Luke's still on the team for the past 3 years. Yeah, I mean, he was a little bit of a mascot there at the end. You guys are all on point with that. I can't argue with it in any respect. I mean, he was a guy that seemed like a locker room guy for whatever reason they were kind of holding on to by that point. B. Russ says, anyone else frustrated with Carlos Hyde constantly being injured? I mean, we brought him in to play the 4 games that we know Carson would miss. Him, Dorsett, and Finney, all just horrible pickups. Yeah, I have been frustrated with the Hyde deal because, again, I come back to, and I don't mean to harp on this, but I just come back to the fact that what I had hoped was that they would go back and they'd re-sign Marshawn Lynch this offseason because he wouldn't cost a lot of money, and he could be a nice little piece to have there when the Carson injury came up like you're talking about. Start Marshawn for 4 games. Have him just kind of always there backing him up. I thought that'd be a much smarter way to go than bringing a guy like Carlos Hyde, who might be a little younger, but does bring all those injury concerns with him because he has had some injury problems throughout his career. He hasn't been a guy that's been healthy through every season. He's kind of been dinged up here and there all over the place. And Dorsett's a similar situation. You had Josh Gordon coming back in. The Dorsett thing was kind of an odd signing to me when Lockett was the best player out of the slot all last year. He was the most effective slot wide receiver in the NFL. Dorsett played specifically at the slot with the Patriots. That's where he was most effective, had the most effective season of his career the prior year working in that role. How was this all going to work out? Were you going to move Lockett to the outside and then Dorsett inside? And what about more? It was an odd signing at the time, and you all know what I think on Finney. So Y2KH, should you start Collins over DJ Dallas for fantasy? Ooh. I would probably go with Dallas in fantasy to just have a certain thing of production, because while I am predicting that Collins is going to start and get some carries, I don't have anything writing on that prediction. So it's probably a little bit different if I would. If I had my fantasy team writing, I'd probably go with Dallas just to have a certain thing, but I still would fall back in line with thinking Collins is going to get more carries. D-Boy says, if you guys were starting a team, would you pick DK or Claypool, the rookie? I would pick DK. I think Claypool is going to be a marvelous receiver. The Steelers are just like the Packers. They know how to develop and draft receivers. They do. Sometimes the Packers don't draft high enough to get the receivers they should, but the Steelers will. Steelers will go first round for a guy if they target him. But he's going to be a good player. I got to meet Alex Collins once. He came up to me once when I went to the Seahawks versus Jets game a few years back. I was on the sideline before the game, and he's very short but very built from what I remember. Yeah, not a big guy. And another guy that's probably a lot like DJ Dallas. He's not really going to drag the pile, but he's got a little bit more of that short area burst, and he's got some moves to him. He's got a spin move. He's got a little juke. He's got a little dead leg he can do. So he's got some stuff he brings to the football field. Alex does. He had a really good, I think, year and a half there for the Ravens for a while as a running back for them. Randall says, can we safely call Tyler the second best wide receiver in franchise history? Also, can we just admit TL and DK, Tyler Lockett and DK, best combo in the league? They need a nickname. Actually, no. I would still at this point, Randall, I would still hold, in my opinion right now, it goes Largent, and then it goes Baldwin, and then it goes probably Blades at that point, still over Tyler. Go look up a Blades stats, Randall. He was pretty legit. So, I mean, I think Tyler's knocking on the door to getting up to Brian Blades, but he's not quite there. Daddy Dennis, Double D Daylight DJ Dallas. Let the legend be born. I love that nickname. I wish that nickname would stick. That'd be awesome. Thanks for sending me the dress, Randall. I want to get you off one of my mugs. My mug. Y2KHA says, I love original Winfield, so I love seeing the new one do great. It's one of the things that have developed as part of my assessment of football in recent years is that the big belief in genealogy and the guys that are coming from guys that played in the league and being able to have a father, let's say, that played in the league for many years or an uncle or a nephew. I mean, we've got this with a guy like Lockett, who's had multiple relatives who played in the NFL football. DK Lockett, who's had multiple relatives who played in the NFL. Shell, our right tackles. Father Art Shell, very, very famous right tackle for the Raiders, I believe. There's a couple other guys on our team. I'm forgetting Jamal Adams' father, I think, played in the NFL at running back. We've got a lot of that genealogy stuff that we're tapping into on this team. It's just a working theory I have that there's just something to having guys that are, second, third generation guys and their effectiveness and just how they take to the game like fish to water at times and their ability to really acclimate and go. And I love Winfield as a player. I thought he had a lot of the same stuff I saw from Earl Thomas coming out of Texas, but I thought he was a little bigger and a little bit more of a assured tackler. Earl might have been a little more freakish in his speed and his quickness, but very, very close players. And his father, Y2KH, Antoine Winfield, his father, senior, the best tackling cornerback I've seen in my lifetime at 5'8". 5'8", just a dog. Benji says, I think if Seahawks defense comes together, we can easily take the game. I agree. Lots going to ride on the defense and a couple of these parts coming back in to invigorate things and inject some juice, some much needed juice into this defense. Randall McDaniel says, if I'm being honest, A.J. Brown was the Ole Miss receiver I wanted pre-draft. Huh. Well, he had some good film, Randall. I mean, he's a big, smooth athlete, great hands, awesome after the catch. I mean, what's not to love about him? When you watched his film at Ole Miss, it's like, yeah, you could see it. DK was just so freaky to me for what you saw him being able to do, especially when he would slap a cornerback out of the way. And then, you're going against that Alabama one, for instance, off the first play of the game where he slaps the press off and then just gets 5 yards of space instantaneously in his, you're going, wow, he's doing that up against an Alabama cornerback. That even if it was just in a flash, you're going, if we can find any way to replicate this on the football field a couple times a game, that'd be marvelous. Daddy Dennis Bills, -1 turnover differential, not good. I smell fumbles and picks. I do too. Something we need, I think, is that defense is going to give up yards. Defense is going to give up points. But you can get a couple turnovers throughout a game. You can flip the field a couple times. That's all we need from you guys. And I think that they've got the attributes to do that. I certainly do. Your running backs are beat up, Y2K. I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, Cranks, what's up, man? We're going to be on later doing some Fort if you're down. So I know it's going to be a little bit later your time here once I sign off. But hit me up, Mike, on online. He says, I want to see T.Y. Hilton come to Seattle after this year. You could. I don't know if the Colts will let him go, but he'd be an interesting player with Seattle. He's still got some speed, man. He'd be a very interesting player and he could be one of those guys a little bit of a depressed value where he's not costing you a lot, or they release him, or you get him by a trade like one of those 5th round trades, and then you rejigger his contract a little bit. They got to make a decision when it comes to probably Lockett or Gordon at that point. But as a 3rd wide receiver, that wouldn't be bad. Just throw this out there, says Y2HA, but Blake Martinez on the Giants really stepped his game up this year. Their defense might suck, but he's great. He's playing solid. I think he was 2nd in the league last year in tackles behind Bobby. He's been a guy right up there through the last few years. I do think he has some liabilities in coverage that I don't think Bobby quite has, and I don't know if he's the blitzer that Bobby is. But as a tackling machine, a guy that can go sideline to sideline, Blake absolutely can be that guy. Now, Eastwick signed Vic Beasley. If they can get him at a low end price, it's not a big risk for us at that point. If he comes in the first week and you see that he just doesn't have his heart into it and he's not got any love for the game, he's collected his money, he's ready to go and retire, you can cut him for nothing at that point. So there's no risk by signing Vic Beasley. He's got to want to come here though. He's got to want to make this his place. Now, from the standpoint of why he would do that, he's coming to play for a Super Bowl winner, number one. Number two, he gets to play in a defense that he was originally drafted in to play. That's what the Falcons played, was this 4-3 under defense, and him the Leo N. He could come here and be that Leo N theoretically. So there is a fit from that standpoint. How much money we have and how willing he is to come here and how much love he still has for the game. Those are the big question marks, Najee, that I don't have an answer for. Anthony says Vic Beasley would be the second best pass rusher easily. His production fell off when he was moved to linebackers, defensive end. The scheme led the league in sacks. Yeah, this is the same thing I've said too with Clowney, Anthony, is that with both Beasley and Clowney, they're sort of sliding two guys into their 3-4 scheme that aren't really, to me, fits for that 3-4 scheme. They just don't have any better options to go off of. So they're just kind of falling back into these kind of guys and trying to attack it with two bodies instead of just one, and neither is really working out for him in that respect. He could be a lot better in this scheme. It's a far different scheme than what he's being asked to run over there. Absolutely, it is. But I do agree with Michael. I do agree with Cordell, where he does look a little. Maybe he's at a point of being washed up. You got to make. That's the thing where the front office is going to have to do their due diligence on this, put their ear to the ground as far as what the league's telling them and their sources on this guy. But again, too, you sign him for it's not like you're going to sign for a 1-year, $3 million deal. You'll make a 1-year league minimum deal going forward, and it won't be guaranteed. So you can cut him at any time if you have to. Consumer 114 says, if DK keeps up this trajectory, are we going to be able to afford him? And the answer, I think, is yes on this. The key with this consumer is that we don't have to pay him for another 1.5 years. So you don't have to make this decision for quite a bit of time. I would expect at that time, by the time you have to sign him, that his value is going to be pushed up along the lane of somewhere between $25 and $30 million a season is what it's going to cost. I would expect from Seattle's standpoint them to try to go probably a little cheaper at the other receiving positions. So, Tyler Lockett could be in, especially a guy's going to be due for his third contract and a pretty big extension at that point. You may have to move off of a guy like that to fit him in by that point in time. But that's not a decision we have to make at this time. And you find a way to fit a guy like this in that's this freakish, that's this good of a fit for Russell Wilson. You don't worry about it. You find a way to make it work. Remember, too, there's other guys that will have been retired by that point. I'd expect Bobby Wagner potentially could be retired by that point. It's $18 million off the board right there. Dwayne Brown's costing you $13 million a year. He's going to probably retire by that point, I would estimate. So there's some room opening up in other places on top of the fact the cap will eventually start to turn back in the right direction. Anthony Bain says Fowler not getting released. Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense for them to release him, Anthony. So I agree with you there. Not going to probably get released. They just signed into a big deal this offseason. So if they release him, all of that bonus money accelerates. They don't save anything on their salary cap by doing that. And I think that just leads me to believe that he's going to probably stay there for the next couple of years until it's more easy for them to get out of the contract at that point. Daddy Dennis says Favre's accuracy kind of got better. It happens. You can fix the mechanics with a good quarterback coach. Daddy Dennis, rather than Favre's accuracy getting better, I feel like more of it was his decision-making got better. That's, to me, was Favre's problem early on. He never really was necessarily wildly accurate as a quarterback. It was that he finally listened to Holmgren and what Holmgren was telling him to do and going through his reads rather than looking for the big money shot all the time. I could be wrong on that, but that's sort of how I remember that a little bit. Randall says searching for Alex Collins in the Yahoo fantasy database, and he's not on there. Weak. That is weak. Especially ends up getting 14, 15 carries in this game. Doesn't make a lot of sense why they should be on top of that kind of thing. But it's hard this year. I had so many guys coming in and off. Randall McDaniel says Tampa Bay's running game is underrated. Fournette's been okay, but that guy from, I think, USC 27 has really blossomed. Yeah, he was a guy when he came out, Ronald Jones, as you're talking about, Randall. I thought he looked exactly, you go back and watch his college tape, he looked just like that Chiefs running back a few years ago. God, I'm getting old, my brain. The Chiefs had a great running back there for a few years. Not the kid out of Penn State, but the other kid that was, a little more skitterish. He looks just like him in the open field and the way they set guys up to get around him. Same kind of quickness and stuff. I like that guy a lot. And I think Tampa Bay is going to continue to be able to run the ball throughout the year. They've got the good offensive line to be able to do it as well. That's going to be a big boon for them as they get into playoff time. And especially if Tom's arm falls off a little bit as we go along. Thanks, Y2K. You have a good one too, man. Brandel says, I read an article speculating Tack McKinley, Atlanta could cut. Also Beasley available. If a guy is cut and a team claims him on waivers, does the guy have to go to that team? Does he sign a new contract? The way it would work is if you have a guy that's cut, the waiver priority takes place. So the loser teams get to have their chance at claiming that guy first and foremost. Yes, I would probably think that there's a chance Tack could be claimed, maybe by one of these teams. And if he is, he could feasibly tell them, I don't want to go to your team. Or he could tell them that before what would happen in Randall is that they would call him up and they say, we're about to claim you on the waiver wire. You're going to come here. You're going to be a problem. He'd say, I'm going to be a problem. I don't want to come there. And they go, okay, we're not going to claim you. This happened last year with the Josh Gordon situation. It was widely reported that everybody was saying, well, Josh Gordon, no other teams wanted him in the NFL except for Seattle. This is not the case. His agent told teams throughout the league not to put a waiver claim in for Josh Gordon, or he would not show up to play for them. So this is why Seattle was able to pick up Gordon in that instance. Could that replicate itself again with a guy like Tack? Maybe. But I would think pass rushers being so hard to get, receivers being a little easier to get, some team would probably want to grab him. I think Beasley's reputation is a little more soiled throughout the league. Brandon McDaniel says DJ Reed looks like Brandon Coleman. Very talented, not Brandon Coleman, but the Coleman kid that we had who signed a big contract with the Detroit Lions. He played great slot for us in his final year in 2018. I could see that. I think Coleman's a little bit bigger. What is both of your guys' number 2 sport? I think Dmac would tell you that it is basketball. For me, it probably oscillates between baseball and basketball for me, D-boy. I've got a lot of roots in baseball. So, but, and with basketball, I have a love-hate affair with basketball. Brady R, what's your prediction for the Seahawks record? I got us going 14-2, Brady R. I think we're going to get one more loss within the next, what we got here for through 5 games or 2. So within the next 3 games, I've got us losing one of them, but I'm going to go ahead and put us up at 14-2 when it all settles out. First round bye. Randall McDaniel, over under on 4.5 sacks for Dunlap in 9 games. He's taken the over 7 and 9 games. He's the dude I wanted and predicted we'd get. The trade will be second on our D line for what the Dwayne Brown trade was on the offensive line. Sorry, I misread that a little bit, Randall, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I would take the over on Dunlap having more than 4.5 sacks for the rest of the year. Part of the reason on this, Randall, is not just speaking to his effectiveness, but speaking to the fact that Seattle's defense is going to give up yards, is going to give up points, is going to have a lot of plays out there on the football field, which is just going to up his amount of chances to go get those sacks. One of the reasons why sacks is sometimes a poor stat for evaluating a pass rusher. But all that being said, I think he'll be an effective pass rusher for us on top of being, having the sack stat. He'll be an efficient one as well. So I would go with that. And I could see that happening where he becomes a lot like what Dwayne Brown was for our offensive line, where the second you got Dwayne Brown on that offensive line, that solidified everything almost. It didn't make it great. It didn't turn your offensive line into the new Cowboys or the Kansas City Chiefs, but it made you so much better than the sieve you were before it happened. Julius Hoppen. How you doing, Julius? Pretty bold. I hope you're right. Me too, man. Me too. D-Nugget, what's the hesitation to have Snacks playing? The hesitation to have Snacks playing, D-Nugget, and thank you for the $1.99 donation. I had $2 donation. The reason why is because, if I can get this right, this right here is Snacks Harrison when he first signed with our Seahawks. I'll try to give you a little bit of a view here. Now, he's a big boy naturally. He's a big one tech, but that's extra special one tech. That's like an extra serving of one tech right there. Okay. So he needed to work his way into shape. That's going to take more than 1 or 2 weeks to get 30, 40, 50 pounds dropped off, which is what I think you probably need to have done. So that would be my prediction as to why you didn't see, and I know it's a little out of focus there, but that would be my main prediction on that one, why there's been some hesitancy. And you got 3 one techs that are playing all right for you right now. Buda's playing good for you. Brian Monet is playing good for you. You can even slide in Jaron Reed in there from time to time. So there is some depth at that particular position. The problem is the defensive ends, as someone mentioned earlier on the stream. Randall says, who's your most improved player, most surprising in a good way, and who's the most disappointing? Your most improved is David Moore, surprising Posick or Shell. Disappointment is a tie between Dunbar and Olsen. My most improved player would be, well, I think I've got to take Posick as my most improved player because he's shown you so much more than what he showed you at the guard position, even though I thought we would see this. My most surprising player, that's a good question. Probably Shell. Shell's been the most surprising to me because I thought he'd be a moderate improvement over what Ifedi was. I think he's been a much better player than what Ifedi is. I think he's probably still at league average or a little bit below league average, but keeping in mind the fact that Jermaine Ifedi was god awful, like league worst. So I didn't think we were, for what we're paying Shell, I didn't think we were going to get this kind of production. Biggest disappointment for me has been Trey Flowers. I thought Flowers was going to play a lot better, Randall. I really did think he was going to take a step forward. And if I was going to add another number 2 behind him, it'd be Cody Barton, because they actually gave Cody a try to move him off the Sam, which I knew wasn't a good fit for him last year. And they put him to the will in this season. And he wasn't good in the will. Wasn't good at all in that will position. So Shervin's, yeah, Dunbar's been okay for me. I don't think he's been that bad. I think Dunbar's been all right. Jaden, how you doing, Jaden? Sure would be cool if we could get Josh Gordon back. It would be cool. I'm hearing week 10. That's the rumor in the wind right now is week 10, Jaden. We'll see. Ryan Collum, what is the status of Bobby's and KJ's contract? I was thinking KJ's was over soon. You're right on that one, Ryan. His contract ends after this year. He's on the last year of his deal. So he will probably, I would estimate, retire. He's playing great, but I just get the impression with KJ, he's probably pretty close to retirement at this point. He made his one last big season of money. I think he'll call it a day. Bobby, I think we'll get one more year of Bobby. Now, Bobby did sign, I think, a 4-year extension or a 3-year extension on that deal. So he's got a couple more years past that. But my prediction's been, I think Bobby's got 2 years remaining this season and next year. And I think he's going to call it after next season. We'll see if that's true or not. A lot of people in the chat think I'm wrong on that one. But I like to make predictions here, and I tend to be correct on my predictions. Daniel W., they didn't mean Dante Fowler. They meant Vic Beasley. And yes, we should sign Vic Beasley and demote Colby Parkinson or Jacob Hollister to the practice squad. Who cares about cap? Then cut Hollister. I don't disagree with anything you said, Daniel. Don't disagree with anything you said. Right now, for me, with Colby Parkinson on this roster, that does make Hollister repetitive, redundant. And at his $3 million salary, if you half that, he's due to earn about $1.6 million the rest of the year. Just can't help but think that maybe we'll be able to use that money for something else as we go through the rest of the year, especially if one of these guys we're talking about actually does get cut. Randall McDaniel, a little surprising out boy. Taylor is struggling a bit in Indy, saying he's being indecisive. Saw a stat about the time he takes to hit a hole. Falk and Bettis got traded early. Maybe we can snag him. Could be. He was a perfect fit for us on the inside zone. I don't know enough about the Colts running game. I think it's more man-on-man blocking, which does then require the running back to have a little bit more vision and ability to pick his hole, whereas the inside zone is going to ardently tell the running back where he needs to go exactly. So there's a little bit of something to your point on that. Could be. They'll probably give him a little bit more time. They've got a real talented running back on a cheap deal. So it is surprising, though, that he's been a little bit slow to get rolling there, especially with Marlon Mack out, them not having the running back health where they thought that it was going to be, and they could bring him along slowly. Ahmad Ra says, can you do Zoom with fans? I'm going to try to maybe do a Zoom with fans here at some point, Ahmad. I've been really busy with the new job, so I haven't been able to put as much time in the background to kind of looking into how we could do that. But we will look to maybe eventually do kind of a little gathering here. I'm going to do my mods first, so it's good. We're going to be maybe making you a mod, Ahmad. But we'll see on that one. I'm working on it. I promise. Ryan Cullum says, have you ever watched a game in the Kingdom? I watched many games in the Kingdom, Ryan. Many football games and baseball games. No basketball games. They played a few basketball games in Kingdom, but it was mainly over at Key Arena. But it was an awesome environment to watch both of those two sports. There was an intimacy in the Kingdom, even up on the 300 level sometimes. And it was a little ways from the field, but there was, when you got lower, you got close to the action, there was just a charm to the place. It was a concrete jungle. It wasn't pretty, but there is, as I look back in nostalgia, a little bit of a charm to it. Randall McDaniel says, if Goff has time, he's money. I would blitz him every play in the game, even to our detriment. Got to get his timing off. Yeah, what I would do, Randall, is I would tell him because he has had more dropbacks off of play action than any quarterback in the league, and he's been very successful off of it. It's his bread and butter at the moment is play action off of center. So what I do is I got that defensive end, or be it Jamal Adams crashing in on a blitz, and I say, Jamal, you're going to ignore the run on this. You're going at the quarterback. He's going to maybe he'll hand it off, maybe he'll hold it. I want you to be there to smash him as soon as if he does hold it, and just be there to hit that quarterback every time. Make him think about that on those dropbacks, because I think you can kind of get to Goff and get him a little bit with some happy feet on stuff. But you're right. When he's got accuracy, when he's got a clean pocket, he's very accurate. He throws a very catchable football. He's got some talent to him. He's not a great quarterback, but he's got some talent to him. There's a reason he was the number one quarterback taken in the draft, in my opinion. Daddy Dennis says Goff scores 3 points in the Super Bowl. Goff is the opposite of money. Well, again, Daddy Dennis, some of this comes back to the aspect of what I was talking about with what Bill Belichick did. This is where you've got to point to the genius of Bill Belichick, to the intelligence at play with a guy like that, because he's the guy that brought the scheme to play to solve the Rams offense. Nobody else could solve it throughout that year. Everybody was having a problem with that Rams offense. But then the Patriots have a couple weeks to work on a game plan. He comes out with that 6-man front that I was telling you about. And you never knew which defender was going to blitz on that 6-man front. So you had the safety on one side outside of one defensive end and a linebacker on the other side off the ball, looking like they're in a blitz standpoint, but then you're dropping one of them into coverage each time. And this turned into sort of the kryptonite of that scheme. And McVay then had to change it over the last year to more of the 2 tight ends, Goff under center. But that wasn't Goff being inadequate at that point. That's just the Patriots kind of solving what the Rams were doing. And again, too, Goff's not going to be in that stratosphere of your Patrick Mahomes, your Russell Wilson, your Aaron Rodgers type. He'll never reach that stance, but there are different tiers of quarterbacks. It's not just the greatest of the great and then everybody else here sucks. It's different sorts of tiers. And I think Goff can make a claim to being not necessarily in the upper level tier, but in a better than average tier. I said DK Lockett. I'm turning them into the same. And Ahmad, I will go ahead and make you, because we're going to need you here for the Sunday, since it looks like we'll be missing Jose. I will make you a mod, Ahmad. Just make sure, I don't want you kicking anybody out unless I tell you to kick them out. So sometimes I get these mods and I give you guys the mods. You get that ejection button going too fast if we get some trolls. I don't mind dealing with trolls. I don't mind dealing with opposing teams' fans when they come in here. So just make sure you're cool on that front, if you could, please. Ryan, the Bills are 3rd in the league for forced fumbles. I don't worry about DK or Lockett, but worry about DJ and Homer. Yeah, they're a defense that's very opportunistic in that respect, Ryan. And the one place, though, that we have been pretty good with our running backs, receivers this year, which we weren't good last year, even beyond Carson, who had a fumbling problem last year. It seemed like everybody was having a fumbling problem last year. But this year we've been really good with our guys holding on to the ball, protecting the ball, 2 arms on it, and so they're going to get challenged in that, those young kids. And you got to think their mind's going to be about thinking about everything else, choosing, running through the right hole, running with ferocity, pushing the pile, all those things, and not being necessarily thinking about that ball in a moment to moment. So it is something to monitor. And Russell's got to not throw any picks this week. He's got to not have those moments where he throws it up at times. We need him to be on point as well as far as protecting that ball. Because if he does, I think that our defense will turn it over a couple of times, and that alone could end up being the difference in the game. Is if we protect and don't cause a turnover and we're able to get a couple back the other way, that right there could be if you can break it all down into one stat, that might end up being the one key indicator stat for us in this particular game. Team 12s probably won't watch the rest of the live. It's okay. We're going to probably we'll go a little bit here more, but we'll go for somewhat soon here. Probably won't watch the rest live. I left at 1:30 minutes because dinner, and I'm watching first Christmas movie of the holidays because it's Elf. I love Elf. Elf's a great watch. I understand. I watch that every year too, I think. Daddy Dennis says, trying to cause false starts on Twitter. It has resulted in so much fun. Tried it on Russell Okung when we played the Chargers. He tweeted me after the game. Nice try. Nice. Ryan Collum, you were right. Thank you for bringing that up, Ryan. My old brain sometimes just can't remember these guys' names. Ronald Jones, to me, college tape reminded me exactly of Jamal Charles. I thought they looked just like the same kind of running back. It was almost uncanny watching Jones's tape at USC. And I thought he was going to translate to somewhat of a near player to where Jamal could maybe be. And he's not exactly. Jamal was a special talent. So not to that stratosphere of things, but at least a very, very good player, good running back. And I think Jones is becoming that. Shervin says DK will retire as a top 10 wide receiver all time. Book it. Sounds good to me, man. And he is on that trajectory to do that. So You're not saying anything that isn't out of whack or out of possibility. No doubt about it. Random McDaniel says Art Shell is Brandon Shell's dad. Art, one of the best ever to do it. Also the first African American head coach in NFL history. Yep, as I understand it, he is Art Shell's son. And you got that genes, man. You get that DNA, that football in the DNA, man. They just carry it on. They got that next extra level that they can take their game to. Damn, man, this is still live. Yeah, we'll be wrapping up soon here, probably. Only Spiffy, what is up? Only Spiffy. He says thoughts on Dunlap. So Dunlap, when he came out, was a real freakish guy. 6'7", moved like a guy that was probably like 6'3". He's one of those type of guys, and all of 6'7", very long. His game in certain respects reminds me a little bit of a more of a leaner, Calais Campbell. Because what he tends to do in his pass rush, Ole, is he will come off the line and he'll lock out that tackle. And the point of locking the tackle out, of course, is that you're just going to say, hey, my arms are longer than your arms. And if I lock my arms out, your little fingers are just going to be tickling my chest, tickling my nipples as I go through. And then you can't do nothing about it. And I'll walk you back into the quarterback. And then I'll eventually disengage from you and I'll take the quarterback to the ground, or disengage from you if I'm setting the edge against the run, disengage with you to take the running back down. They control their gap. There's a lot of what Snacks Harrison does as well. They're not gap penetrators. They kind of protect it. They'll be ready to go either way, either side, and you're not going to move them off the ball. So I really love that element to his game. Only Spiffy. He's not as much of a bend guy. He's not a guy that's going to get low to the ground and then cut that edge and cut that corner like you'd see from a guy like Von Miller. It's not really his game, but he's got a lot of power. There's a lot of elements to what you saw in Clowney and his pass rush and how he'd go about his business. So a little bit of that to Dunlap too. He doesn't quite have some of the same athleticism that he once did. Doesn't move exactly like he did when he was a little younger, but he still moves really well for his size, and that length hasn't gone anywhere. So he should still be a pretty effective player for us. He's really more of a guy at this point in that 8 sack a year type mold, very good run defender, but he would give us our best pass rusher on the team right now the second he walks in the door, even in that state, because of where currently the low bar is on the pass rush. Dmac had to go out. He had something he was going to do, just a quick thing, but I wanted to get through the last you guys' questions on here. And please do, yes, as D-Nugget said, give the channel and video a like if you're in here still watching, and subscribe if you're not already. I do appreciate it. It helps the channel grow immensely. Najee Eastwick, what about BBK? Could he step in if KJ retires? Theoretically, he could. Najee, he ran a 4.5 at the combine, I believe. He's a guy that led of course, college football in tackles in his final year there with the University of Washington Huskies, the Huskies. The one thing with him, though, that comes back into play for me is that throughout this time, as we've seen Michael Kendricks go out and then put Cody Barton in, or this year when we had Jordan Brooks go down and Barton didn't look great, they really haven't even let BBK get on the field to do anything. So he's not even had an opportunity to go out there and show us anything outside the Panthers game last year when Bobby Wagner went out for a couple plays due to injury. So we don't know what we really have in the guy. No preseason this year hurt him a bunch, and it's hard to make many predictions on him. He'd get an opportunity. He'd certainly get a chance to get in there and fight. I would tend to think at this point, if you're looking for where we'd be going into next year, that if Bobby's still playing next year, then you're probably going to see Jordan Brooks at the will. And then you're going to look at either Cody or BBK fighting it out, maybe there at the Sam, if not even Bruce Irvin potentially coming back. So probably doesn't have a huge future at this point, Najee. I would probably be selling on BBK a little bit as far as ever being a starter in this league. Ryan Collins says, thoughts on your favorite Seahawks players of all time. My personal favorite is favorite Seahawks plays of all time. My favorite personal favorite is Largent's hit on Mike Harden. And Ryan is, of course, talking about the revenge hit where Largent had his clock cleaned by Mr. Harden in Denver. I think he had his jaw broken, and then Largent came back and gave him a whack in the Kingdome, I think 7 or 8 weeks later, and just laid him out while also causing a fumble on the play. And that might be also my favorite play in Seahawks history as far as a play, Ryan. Just because of that, all the things built into that particular play and how it did play out from the history of it. And then also you have to understand, Ryan, my favorite player in Seahawks history is Steve Largent. Like, he's my favorite guy. Russell could maybe eventually unseat him, but there's a lot of nostalgia. There's a lot of when I was a kid, Largent was playing. So it's going to be very hard for Russell to even, no matter how great Russell becomes, to unseat Steve. But as far as other plays, as far as my favorites go, there's a Joey Galloway return back in the day where he reversed field, just amazing, showing off that near 4.2 speed he reportedly had at his pro day. That would be one of those plays out there I'd probably point to. Certainly the tip with Richard Sherman in the championship game is one you absolutely have to mention in there and point to as well. Probably have to think about some other stuff as I'm going through it in my mind to give you some other good possibilities. So let me think about a couple others here. Off the top of my head, there's a couple there. I'm trying to think of fun plays. There's a couple other ones that have been, I love like John L. Williams has a couple back, they fullback reversing field. He's a fullback doing it. Usually you see running backs do that kind of thing. I love the Dave Craig play at the end of 1990 when he's been sacked 7 times. I did a great Seahawks moment video on it, Ryan, where he had been sacked by Derek Thomas 7 times. Derek comes in and almost gets the 8th sack, and he throws up this just Hail Mary to Paul Scansey, who gets it. Absolutely one of my favorite plays right there, too. I'll continue to think about it, though. Maybe I got a couple more I can give you. Nathaniel says, do you think we can reach a Super Bowl if we get the number 2 or 3 seed? We could, Nathaniel. We play pretty well on the road. There's a possibility of it, but going with recent history, it's shown that it's going to be very hard to go on the road and win a Super Bowl. And when you look at the teams that we're going to be potentially going up against for that first seed at this point, you've got the Packers. Hard to go into Lambeau and win in December and January. It's going to be real tough. We've seen Seahawks teams go in January into Lambeau multiple times, 3 times in last 20 years, and lose in the playoffs. Very hard. Very hard. I would say the same thing about going to the Superdome and playing the Saints. We got to play them on the road. Tampa Bay wouldn't be as tough maybe because as far as being on the road there, but you still have the potential for the heat and the humidity there throwing your team into flux, even though it is in winter. So, yeah, we could. But, man, I feel a lot more confident about getting to the Super Bowl if we get the number 1 seed. Because when we've gotten in the past, 2005, 2013, 2014, you've gotten to the Super Bowl. Randall says Jamal Charles is the Chiefs running back you talked about, University of Texas. That's what they compare the running back at Clemson to, Etienne. And Etienne is nothing like Jamal Charles. He's nothing like Jamal Charles. And I like Etienne. He's a great back, Randall. He really is. But, man, that is a lazy comparison. I'm sure they do, but that would be just like the analysts to say that. But, no, he's not Jamal Charles. The Jamal Charles is that it's the key factor with him running was his vision and his ability to stop and start, and then the dead leg off the stop and start. So he'd get that dead leg out there for the defender, try to get the defender to draw to the dead leg one side or another, then utilize his stop and start ability to then turn on a dime and then cut it in a different direction. And Etienne's he's more of just a traditional type running back to me. Very good. He's going to be a very good back in the league. He's got no real flaws to his game. But Charles was real unique in his running style. Am I the only one thinking he was about to get off? I was finishing up these questions, so I was thinking about it here. Randall says Tack averages about 0.7 sacks a game in his career. I think 17 sacks in 25 games. Yeah, that's the problem with him, though, Randall. He's not available. Maybe he does average 0.75. Maybe he is able to generate some pressure when he's in there, but him being in there is so infrequent. D-Boy, when is it time for DK to get paid? Will you think loyalty will take part in it, or does he just want the money? He's going to be a guy who's a second-round pick who hasn't made a lot of money up until this point. He's going to want to get paid on this contract. So I would think it's going to cost you between $25 and $30 million, D-Boy, and I think we can still afford that at that point in time. I do. There's no reason you have enough time to prepare yourself for the contract up ahead of time. We have a year and a half until we have to actually give him that money. The rookies can't negotiate a new deal until after the 3rd year of their contract. Doesn't matter how good they are. They've got to wait till that 3 years. Spider Rico, what's a better defensive play by a Seahawks receiver? DK's rundown or Largen's hit on Harden? I'm going to say Largen's hit on Harden because receivers are not known for being physical or laying hits. Whereas with DK, you're asking him to run up fast and catch a guy from behind who he's much faster than. It's still impressive. It's great effort. It's an amazing play. It's an all-time Seahawks play, Spider Rico. But that Largen hit, when he's coming back and doing that, and again, it's revenge. That just makes it so much just sweeter, right? When it's also not only is he laying a guy out, not only is he causing a fumble, because remember, he also caused a fumble on the play, but it's also getting sweet, sweet revenge. Jeff Rhines, man, I enjoyed both the Kingdome and the Clink is awesome. I got to watch the Raiders with Bo Jackson play at the Kingdome and Jordan with the Bulls, but the Clink is better for football. Yeah, it's probably better, probably a little more intimate. It is. I think like maybe with the Kingdome, I liked it more I like watching Mariner games, maybe more in the Kingdome, just the way that it was a smaller field and maybe I'm thinking more in that realm of things. But so there's an ambiance to the Kingdome, there's a specialness to it. Randall says, if only one of these can happen in the next decade, Hawks win a Super Bowl, Mariners win a World Series, Huskies win a national title in football. Personally, I take an IMS win, which I think could happen in 3 to 5 years. I would actually go a different direction with this, Randall. I would go in the direction of saying I'd like to see a Seahawks win a Super Bowl, because if a Seahawks win another Super Bowl, if they get to another Super Bowl, they start to elevate themselves into that discussion of blue blood franchise that the same team and organization like the Denver Broncos can claim, where they say for years we've been good. We've been to multiple Super Bowls. We've won a couple of Super Bowls. Now you start to get up and separate yourself over some of these other teams out there, and you start to be considered in that, in that rank of those teams. There's something about that I like, and I find a little endearing. Having a special franchise in the city, as opposed to if the Mariners won the World Series, it'd be great, but it'd be just kind of probably quickly forgotten, in my opinion. Random says we win the Super Bowl, there could be a lot of dudes who are on the retirement fence exiting on top. KJ, Dwayne, Bobby, 100%. 100% that could go down. And it's happened in the past, So it certainly is a real possibility we could be looking at, and I think it'd be okay if it happened. Certainly, it's a good problem to have at that point, right, Randall? That's one of those first world problems. Like, man, all of our great players are retiring because we won the Super Bowl. Gosh. D-Boy says, was Bruce Irvin a waste of cap space? Did we take an L to bring him back? No, Bruce Irvin's not had a wide history of being injured. He's never torn his ACL in the past. There wasn't a lot of reason to believe that he was going to become super injury prone all of a sudden or have this ACL tear. It was very random. He was giving you 2 positions for one with that money on simply a 1-year deal, which meant not a lot of extra commitment beyond this season. So you were getting him to play Sam linebacker and be a rotational pass rusher, which was going to provide us value throughout the course of the season. He got injured. That sucks, but it's still, that was of an offseason of deals made that I didn't like. That was not one of the deals that I would pick at or pull apart. That's one that I feel fine with. D-Nugget, my favorite play is John Ryan's run. That's a good one too. D-Nugget mentions a great play. I think you're talking about the fake field goal where he threw the touchdown pass to our tackle, and then he did the discount double check towards Rodgers on the sideline. That was cool. Oh, and I'm missing the beast mode run. Both the beast modes runs, the Cardinals game and and of course Beastquake were 2 of the more memorable ones in franchise history. Najee Eastwick says Brandon Brown's 94-yard pick. That was a cool moment too. That was when you were kind of wondering if, oh man, this secondary is this guy's good too, and Sherman's good too, and Thomas is good, and Chancellor's good, and kind of went, man, we might have a pretty good secondary here. Awesome. Thanks for the content, says Ryan. Really important. Hey, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it a bunch. Now, Shervin's bring back Bruce Irvin on the vet minimum. I'd be in favor of it. I would. If they could get him back at a discounted rate, I still think that there's value to be had there as a potential guy who could play good Sam linebacker role for you on early downs, and then every once in a while you rotate him in as a rotational pass rusher. Nathaniel Park says favorite Seahawk of mine is Cam Chancellor. I can understand why. It's a great selection, Nathaniel. It's a fantastic pick. Najee Eastwick, Jamal Charles reminds me of Reggie Bush. A little bit. I could see that. Reggie was more of the explosive juker. Jamal would sort of lull you to death. He was so smooth. Jamal was just, no wasted motion, no wasted effort. Almost looked like sometimes he wasn't running hard, even when he was running hard. With Reggie, he was just this throttle, just this pumping kind of engine out there with the way he ran the ball a little bit. But I can see that a bit. D-Boy says, how do you feel about Sidney Rice as a Seahawk? Do you think he was good with us, or was he a little past his better years when he was with us? I think it could actually, in this case, be a bit of both of those things, D-Boy, in the situation of Sidney Rice. They went to Sidney Rice because they weren't able to get Brandon Marshall. Marshall was a guy at the time who was going to be available. We had him in. We actually flew Marshall in at the time. I think he would have been a great fit with Russell at that point. But then I think the Dolphins ended up offering an extra second round pick to the Broncos, and that was enough to get him over to the Dolphins at that time. So we lost out on him. The fallback plan then became Sidney Rice. And I think Sidney Rice actually did help, Russell out a little bit as in that early part of the year. He kind of broke down and he wasn't able to kind of sustain himself as he went through. But that first part of the early year, especially like the New England Patriot game when Russell was able to hit him on the bomb, he had a couple of games in there where Russell was able to utilize him a bit. It would have been really interesting to see Sidney Rice in his prime with a guy like Russell Wilson. And it also speaks to Carroll's understanding that within this offense, D-Boy, he's got to have a big bodied wide receiver. Go back to the USC days, Carroll's always understood you need a big body guy that can go up and get the ball, especially for down in the red zone. And that's what he was trying to get with bringing in a guy like Sidney Rice to get for his offense. And now we've got it in a guy like DK or Josh Gordon or even even a guy like Disley as our tight end. I think he understands you've got to have these kind of guys on your team in this day and age that can be mismatch problems like that. So I still think it wasn't a horrible move, and they had to bring somebody in. Their wide receiver room was really, really weak at that time. They had money to spend. D-Boy, if they didn't spend it on him, who were they going to spend it on? There wasn't any other wide receivers to go out there and get at that time. Randall says, I think the loss the Rams when they throttled us in Seattle put a lot of change in motion for our team. We were kind of a mirage that year, but I think it forced Pete and John to come to Jesus. I think a little bit. They've mentioned at times that the games against the Rams and pointed to those games and said, this thing happened against us in the Rams. We got overmatched. We got outplayed physically. That's never going to happen to us again. So I could, that does speak to your point on that a little bit, Randall. It does. I don't know. Hard to say on that. It is hard to say on that. Some of the stuff like this year with the changes they made this year, they realized finally that they didn't have enough pass rush. So now we have to blitz all the time. But then you go, well, why did you guys pay enough attention to the pass rush? Wasn't that important enough to you guys last year, coming off last season when it was probably your biggest problem as a football team? Nathaniel says, hopefully we don't have to pay DK after we pick up his fifth-year option. Yeah, unfortunately, Nathaniel, only fifth-year options are available for first-round picks. So when you have guys that are picked after the first round, the second round, it's a 3-year deal, and then you can theoretically put them on a restricted tag in their fourth year and put like a second-round restricted tag on them. But you're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to sign him to an extension at that point. And you wouldn't really be putting him on the franchise tag either. If you put him on the restricted tag, you can match any deal he gets out in free agency. But some team can go out there and do the old Steve Hutchinson poison pill to you and jack up his contract so high that it doesn't make any sense for you to go that way. So you just got to end up signing him after the third year. Unfortunately, it's the one downside to third round picks, as opposed to first round picks who do have those extra 2 years on the back end of their deal to give teams a little bit more time to have to, not have to pay him as quickly. D-Nugget says, what would Largent be like with Russ today? Largent would be an amazing fit with Russ. Largent's game was going deep, the deep balls, getting separation deep, being a route runner that could get you separation and open fast. That would fit really well in with Russell's deep ball. He'd been able to track Russell's deep ball perfectly. He'd been making catches right and left out there. Russell would have the arm strength to hit him on times where quarterbacks like Jimmy Zorn and Dave Craig didn't quite have at times the arm strength to get him deep when he needed it. So I think Largent would have been even better with a guy like Russell Wilson. D-Boy, how do rookies make money besides their game checks? Because DK is not broke. Well, you got sponsorship deals, D-Boy. And the better player you are early on, the more sponsorship checks you get, the bigger you're going to get, the higher your Q rating, the more money you're going to get. It's really just as simple as that. Shervin was my favorite player going up. Sherman was a unique player. Understandable why you'd like him too. You guys got some great players you love here. Nothing I can knock on that. Nathaniel says, do you think our D is better than what it's been showing? Like, would it be better without Ken Norton? I don't know that I'd point as much to Ken Norton being some big problem to the defense or the end all be all. And if he's swapped out for just a reliable head coach who's got a relatively good head on his shoulders, all would be well. I don't know if I believe that as much. I'm a little reticent to fall in line with that. I think the problems on this team defensively come down to, for instance, with the pass rush, you don't have talented enough pass rushers who can get to the quarterback. Your defense is built on having front four generate pass rush. This becomes really that is more of the end all be all to me. And it's why I keep harping on it. It's why it keeps becoming the thing that I go gravitate towards and say, this thing right here, fix this. And then the rest of the stuff gets fixed. Your linebackers look better. Your corners look better. Your safeties look better. But I I don't know that Norton's the big fat problem. I think he is a problem. I think we could do better. I do think that, Nathaniel, but I don't know that that's the biggest issue at play here, defensively speaking. D-Boy says, in your opinion, what year and what deal was it when the Seahawks made that big turnaround to becoming a good, best team? That happened in 1997, D-Boy, 1997 or 1998. I might be off on my years on this, but when Paul Allen bought the football team, D-Boy, because when he bought the football team, the first thing he did walking in off the streets, he said, we're going to spend some money on free agents. And I know I'm going to have to overpay to get those free agents in here. So they brought Chad Brown in here. Chad Brown, they said, what's the best offer you're getting right now? This is the best offer. And they said, here's $5 million more than that. And they were willing to, they now are willing to open those purse strings up where they weren't before, which started immediate improvement. He then went out and paid the money for Mike Holmgren, bringing him over for the Packers, getting a legitimate head coach in here, not just some guy who's bounced around the league a lot and been here and been there and been over here, but a guy that was a legitimate upper level head coach in this league at the time and the way he was viewed. And he continued to stick in that commitment to making sure that the new stadium got made, even to the point of putting his own money into the stadium to get it built. Allen is the guy that brought that savior position in. And this is, again, why I do come back to the fact that while Allen essentially has the money there, or while his support is still there for the organization, he's the de facto reason we are in the place we are now. You know, he's the guy who said, okay, Jim Moore after season isn't working. I can see instantly this isn't working. I need to get somebody else in here, and I'm going to get the right candidate in here. Who do you get? Coach Carroll, who then brought in Schneider. This points again back, again, time and time again, I come back to Paul Allen and giving him credit in that respect. Najee says Sean Alexander was mine in Sean Springs jersey growing up. I've got myself in a Sean Springs jersey at one point, Najee. I thought there was a young part of me when I was young in my fanhood looking at him thinking, oh, we got the next Deion Sanders. We got the next Deion Sanders. Sean never quite was that. He was a solid cornerback in this league, but never quite that. Just not quite. All right. But I remember me some Sean Springs. Fast as hell, man. Him and Joey Galloway is the typical freakish Ohio State freak athletes. The 4-3 guys that were strong as hell and that could jump through the roof and all that. Man, it's like they got a factory there with those guys. DK got the Nesquik milk sponsorship. That's right. He's got a few sponsorship deals. I'm guessing they're going to continue to stack up over the next year too. Brian A. Wilson says, any chance we could steal JJ from Houston? Not anymore, Brian. Your opportunity came at the trade deadline, and it doesn't sound like we could get that done. It sounded like the Texans were going to hold us over a barrel for Jacob Martin alone. Say nothing of what they would have asked for JJ Watt. But if JJ gets released, I don't know that he clears waivers. Probably not. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed a little bit. Nathaniel says, do you bring back Benson Mayowa? No, I would find better players than Benson Mayowa as a rotational pass rusher. I didn't like that signing at the time. I still don't like that signing, really. Juicy, what's up? Juicy must have said something naughty. With Bam Bam Cam being a one-team career player with the Seahawks, do we have a chance of getting his number retired? Because seeing other players with the number 31 on makes me mad and sick. I hate it. Good question. It's a good question. He's right on the edge. Cam's right on the edge, and probably he does get retired. I mean, from that group, I mean, you could probably say Earl, Russell, Bobby, Marshawn, Cam, Sherm. That's 6 players. There's going to probably be a cap at some point because you're going to need some of those jersey numbers. You've already retired, I think, 4 or 5 jersey numbers. So there's a chance. There is a chance. And he's got a good chance, but I don't know. It's kind of 50-50 for me, D-Boy. It is. It's probably going to be a little bit more time, too, before they would. I think even guys like Easley and Warner had to wait a little bit. Ryan Neal on a new contract? Probably not. Probably in free agency. I don't know. I don't think with all the money you're going to have to put Jamal Adams on a new contract. You're already paying a lot of money to Quandre Diggs. There's only so much money you can invest in the safety position. You got to go cheap with the backups. So Neal probably goes to free agency. Sam Z says, look at their rush D without Adams. Seattle's rush D's been pretty good throughout the year. And Adams is going to help in that. He's a good run defender. He's got to get you a lot of TFLs. Hawk Nation, would you rather have Jamal Adams or Cam Chancellor? I would take Jamal Adams, especially for the modern game, Hawk Nation. I think Cam Chancellor's effectiveness was perfect for the time and the era and the age he was in, where football was currently at as far as the physical nature of it. I think it's become less physical since Cam's retired. I think it's continuing to go in that direction. You guys multifaceted who can lay a hit and do other things and have other skills. I think Jamal's a little more multi-skilled than Cam was. Keegan Reilly says, do you like how the O-line is playing? I love how the O-line's playing, Keegan. I think we're top 10 in pass protection, which there would have been no way I would have come to that prediction at the start of the year when I was initially looking at this season. No way I would have predicted that. No way. So them playing at that, performing at that level, looking at a guy like Damian Lewis, who gives us a legitimate potential Pro Bowler in the now and into the future on that line, finally a young developing player in there, somebody, just something. And I love what I've seen out of Ethan Posick. Dwayne Brown's playing marvelously. I think Mike Upati, they're being protective with. He'll come back in and give us good play there at the left guard. But even the backup guys, Jordan Simmons, Jamarco Jones, everybody's held their water. Everybody's playing pretty solidly. So I love where our O-line is at right now, Keegan. I really do. And they're doing a good job at keeping Russell clean. When he gets sacked a lot of times right now, it seems like when he does get sacked, it seems to be for him holding the ball a little bit too long rather than somebody giving up quick pressure like we've seen for the last 5 years prior to this year. John DeVoe says, I'm hearing rumors that we're trading Russell to San Francisco for Jimmy G in a first rounder. Good one, John. Good one. Brian Wilson, can we give some love to Puna Ford? I'm a Chevy guy, but that's a Ford. I'm a Chevy guy, but that's a Ford worth a few bucks. I would sign Ford to a nice little marginal contract extension. He doesn't give you any pressure really at the quarterback, but as far as a run defender goes, absolutely fantastic in that realm. Absolutely what we hoped for is the undrafted rookie free agent that everyone was telling us, man, this guy's going to be able to play 10 years in this league because of him as just a stout run defender. And he's a great one tech when you slide him in there. Like the guy a lot. I'm not going to pay the bank for him, Brian, because he's not getting me a lot of pressure, but I'm happy enough with what I see from him. Sir Jarius Rez says, what threshold of production does Dunlap have to meet in order to stick around next year at his $14.5 million cap hit? I feel like it'll take a 6+ sacks to close out that season. So, Jarius, the thing that we got to make sure of on that before I make that prediction is the question of he just reworked his deal to come here this year. So in reworking his deal to come here this year, was that also affected in the second year of his cap? I would think so, because I think in reworking it, what Seattle did was come to him and say, we want to keep you into this year and into next. We're not going to do that at $14.5 million. Let's get this down to more of a feasible spot. I haven't seen the numbers on that, but I'd be more interested in understanding where that is first before telling you what it would take to kind of keep him. But I think if he gets anything over 5 sacks, they're probably going to look at holding on to him. There's a good chance. Now, you're going to have a lot of bodies moving in next year. LJ Collier, Darrell Taylor, Rasheem Green. They're going to have a bunch of guys already kind of there on the cheap. But because you've got a bunch of guys there on the cheap, maybe you can afford to bring on a guy who's got a little bit of money, who's your veteran, steady guy like Carlos Dunlap would be. So I think there's a good chance he stays on for a couple of years here. T-Boy says, if you had to bring one of 2 players back out of Neal or Flowers, well, Flowers isn't a free agency, so he's going to come back anyway, which is not what you're asking, D-Boy. But I would probably keep Neal at this point. He's a better player at safety than Flowers is as a cornerback. Sam Z, Benson Mayoa is part of that Rushdie. Yeah, kind of. I guess. Kind of. Sam Z, Mayoa has tallied 7 sacks in a row last year against lesser competition. And again, this year, he was not getting you consistent rush. You gave him games where he had 90% of the plus snaps. He's not giving you any efficient pass rush. He's a jag, just a guy. I want to do better than just a jag at our defensive end spot, especially the Leo end position, which is the most vital pass rushing position on the defensive line. Nathaniel Parks, when Diggs' contract expires, do we just plug in Blair or what? That's what I would do, Nathaniel. That's what I would do. I don't think Diggs has shown me enough that I'm going to give him a contract extension as he moves into his early 30s. He's been fine. He's been all right. But I would go that route. I think Blair can play free safety in this league. The reworking of the deal made the cap at 14.5, shifted money from this year to 2021. Okay. Probably not likely they keep him at that contract, at that money. And if he shows out and he just tears it up, sure, they would probably be open to doing that. And he's certainly playing for that money at this point. But I would be surprised to keep him at that spot, understanding that they need to sign Jamal Adams to a contract extension. They're going to need to make a decision on Shaquille Griffin. But if they decided to kick Carson and Griffin to the curb and just sign Jamal Adams, there would be enough money there to keep that Carlos Dunlap deal on the books. Lord knows you don't have to pay a first and a third round pick this year. So there's some savings there. You could make it work. I'm sort of thinking of this out loud as I'm thinking through it, Jarius. But you could make it work. If he shows you enough, you can make it work in there. You can live with that 14-5 on the books. Random McDaniel, Sidney Rice caught Russ' first touchdown pass in the Arizona game. I remember that. Remember TJ Hushmanzada came here in the dark days. TJ did. They signed him to a contract extension. Then TJ got kicked out after he wasn't willing to move his chair in a meeting. And there was supposedly some other stuff in the background with that whole deal. But yeah, Sidney not only caught that first touchdown catch, he had almost at the end of that game, I think he almost caught the touchdown catch for the win in Russell's first game against the Cardinals, which would have been interesting as well if Russell had won that first one. But I like Sidney. I liked him as a player a lot. Really, really fun receiver to watch. Very great body control, long arms, fantastic hands, could jump. He made some marvelous catches with Russell in a very short span of time. Debo says, I don't know if you got to this question or not, but what do you think about this being Luke Wilson's last year? And do you think it was nice of the Seahawks letting him finish this year out and not just cutting him? Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with them bringing him in. He was an insurance policy. I think Luke, like we were talking about earlier, D-Boy is a little bit better, a little bit less below average than a starting tight end in this league. He's not really much of a blocker. He's a try-hard guy. His speed is probably not what it once even was when he first started out, to be honest with you. But with that said, he was a guy that was a useful player for us, got some interesting plays in Seattle Seahawks history. The 2-point conversion against the Packers on Russell's moonshot prayer will always stick out in my mind. People were mentioning amazing plays. That certainly has got to be one of them. But yeah, I like it. It's great that he finished out here, man. I don't have as much sentimentality for him, D-Boy, I think as other people may do. He's a good guy, Najee says they should move Flowers back to safety. And when they play Adams in the box, well, there seems to be a reason that Flowers was moved off of safety from college. So there seems to be an initial thought process that he could play safety in the first place, which is what preempted the move to cornerback with Seattle after he was drafted. Be weird for them to move him back now if they don't think he could play there in the first place. Sir Jerry says, I guess the obvious answer would be an extension, which spreads the money into 3 years at 12 per or something. Yeah, you probably wouldn't have to go up that high, Sir Jarius, especially if you've got bonus money included. It would probably be with his age and where he's at in his career. You're looking at more like a 3-year, $30 million deal or a 3-year, $27 million deal with like $13, $14 million guaranteed. You just bring the guarantees up a little bit on it at that point. That would be probably some way you could go about doing it, especially with the bonus money, because then the bonus money, moves over the 4 years of a deal. So you also spread that out a little bit more easier at that point. They'd have some, they've got some flexibility there. They got some different options they could go with there. And as you said, though, it is all contingent on him actually playing well and showing out. So there's some fire under his feet here. He can't just come in here and be fat and happy and chill and feel like he's good to go. He's going to need to, show something if he wants to be here past this year. They can use that money in other places if he's not what he was as a player even a couple of years ago. But I still think he will bounce back, because you look at past this year, look at last year's stats. He had the third best year of his entire career last year, and in both run stuffing and getting to the quarterback. So I think he's got something left in the tank. I really, really, really do. All right. I've hit all the questions. I've caught up to the chat here. Let's get the last of the few ones in here. We've gone a little bit of time. Please do hit that like button if you're in here new. And if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. It helps this channel grow, as does hitting the like button. Gets me out there in the algorithm so people can see me. We'll be on after Sunday post game. I might even start streaming during the game and the Bills. I'm just going to be kind of chilling on that day, so I might just feel a little funky and willing. Let's see the last questions. Any good free agent corners this year we left out? Oh, we got Dmacc's back. I'm just signing off, my guy. But he says, any good free agent corners this year? If we let Griffin walk, you can't just put Trey Flowers in next year, especially if you let Dunbar go. You could be looking at a guy like maybe Jason Verrett, who's had a really good bounce back year with the San Francisco 49ers. So, you could be looking at him. There's not a lot of other corners that I'm aware about on the market. There's kind of a dearth of cornerbacks right now. Maybe a guy like AJ Bouye come out there in cornerback you could look at, but it's kind of lean. Most of the young corners have been sort of locked up. There's a lot like your Tre'Davious White and Jalen Ramsey's, and those kind of upper level guys have been sort of sort of picked back up on. So there's not a lot there. I'll need to look a little bit deeper and to see what's available, Nathaniel, but I'll do some prep work on that and try to figure it out, find that out for you. D-Boy says, what ex-Seahawks player that was really good that didn't get enough credit? What ex-Seahawks player? Joe Nash is one. Not an exciting career, but a great career. A couple of guys in the 80s, D-Boy. Jacob Green's a guy like that. You look at his career, I think he had over 100 sacks in his career. Fantastic production. I think even Kenny Easley is another guy you can add to that list. You stack up the stats, and Kenny Easley has way more interceptions than, Kenny Easley almost has as many interceptions as Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor combined, if not more. Phenomenal careers from some of those guys in the 80s that played. Not as many guys, I think, in the thousands. Everybody gets their props. Your Walter Jones, your Hutchinsons. I think they do. So it's more the 80s cats. So Dmac, we're going to call it. If you're hearing me, Dmac, I'm going to give this, we're going to give this a day. I want to get on and play some video games. I'll answer last a few questions here. Lofa Tatupu is underrated. Najee, I hope you've seen my great Seahawks moment of Lofa Tatupu that I did on that. That was one of my favorite videos I did of those. Debo says, with AB going to the Buccaneers, do you think Russ is going to have a little animosity with him? Is he going to try to show him what he missed out on when we play the Buccaneers? If we play the Buccaneers, we may not play him this season, but yeah, I'm sure he feels a little bit slighted by AB not coming here and still going to Tampa Bay instead, because it seemed like Seattle was opening their arms up to Antonio Brown, and he sort of skirted them. But yeah, we'll see how it goes on. It'll be interesting. Other than that, D-Boy, let's do a sign off here. I know you're hopping on, but I'm done. I appreciate you guys hopping in for this surprise show. I gave you guys no overhead, but you guys are always great about hopping in, no matter the time, no matter the day, no matter the age. Appreciate that. We will be on Sunday. Other than that, great show as always from you guys. Great questions. I appreciate you. Thank you for the donations, Carl Nerney, Randall McDaniel, D-Boy, D-Nugget. All you guys are all the D's, all the D's, D-Neck. Appreciate you guys, and please do not forget, never forget, don't you ever forget. I'm telling you now, I'm going to tell you every single time until you guys get this in your head. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.